Wednesday morning, Philadelphia. I'm Andrew Salciunas alongside my man, John Kincade, or should I say Mr. Hall of Famer, John Kincade. Johnny, good morning.
Good morning to you, and thanks to everybody last night who was out there at V. For a fantastic night.
It was a very fantastic night.
And to Klein College and Temple University, I am extremely proud to now reside in their Hall of Fame.
Yep, and I didn't lie to you. I went for the food and the drinks, and you just so happened to be there.
It was great.
Yeah,
it was nice.
Thanks for having me.
And Quinta Brunson.
Yes, I was starstruck.
Who will receive her honorary degree today from Temple after getting through most of her degree and then not graduating because she's gone on to some pretty good stuff.
I texted my wife last night while I was there. I was like, I have talked to Joel Embiid face-to-face. Well, not really face-to-face because he's got a foot and a half on me.
Face to chest.
Face to chest, right. I've talked to Joel Embiid. I have talked to Bryce Harper, these stars of this city. I don't get starstruck. I saw Quinta Brunson yesterday. I was shaking in my damn seat.
And
man.
she was sweet.
Yeah,
She's
she was.
a sweet lady, and congratulations. She'll be the keynote speaker at the graduation speaker today at Temple's graduation today.
Yep.
And some of my former students from last year and a couple from this year are graduating today, and I wish them all the best.
Amazing.
And, all my love.
But again, congratulations to you.
It was a great night.
John Kincade, Mr. Politician, with the best speech of the night, I would say. I said that guy can run.
Right?
That guy can
Short,
run for
right,
office.
though?
Yep. Short and to the point. I appreciate
to the point.
that.
Kevin did.
Because I wanted to get back to my food.
Absolutely.
Anyways, so the other day we celebrated the 30-year anniversary of Jeffrey Lurie buying the Eagles. Right?
Have we ever done that before?
What?
Celebrating an owner buying a team?
No.
But it's been that transformational.
Yeah.
God bless Jeffrey Lurie. And I mean that. God bless Jeffrey Lurie for buying this team and to being as committed to this city and this team as he's been.
And I asked you the history lesson because I was not even a year old yet. I asked you whether or not people were excited that it was Jeffrey Lurie or the fact that it was just a new owner. And you told me it was just the fact that it was a new owner.
We had no idea at the time who Jeffrey Lurie was. And believe me, at the time, he was being depicted as a silver spoon kid.
Yeah.
Whose dad had a film company, but everybody wanted Norman Brayman out.
Right.
Who was such a lousy owner, not committed to the city, and a guy from Westchester, which really pisses me off.
Yeah.
Is that Norman Brayman then became a Miami guy, and it was a disaster.
Well, you just wanted a new owner, and
anyone
look, it worked out in a big way. Jeffrey Lurie, what we've seen so far. In his 30 years as the owner of the Eagles, it brought you a Super Bowl. It's brought you multiple Super Bowl appearances. Obviously, all those NFC Championship appearances with Andy Reid. It has brought you contention basically every single season. Every year they're contenders, right? Except for a couple of blips. John, we've talked about this. Connor and I have similar age. We've never seen a rebuild in Eagles franchise history. The years you thought there would be a rebuild, well, Howie Roseman flips it around a day later, right? Howie Roseman obviously gets a lot of credit as well. So today we want to try to figure out what makes the Eagles such a successful organization, because we talk about them being one of the more successful franchises in the NFL over the last 24 years. You could even make the case maybe in sports. The only thing is they haven't had the trophies, so you've never been able to call them a dynasty. Like the Kansas City Chiefs are currently a dynasty. The New England Patriots were obviously a dynasty. NBA, Golden State, Boston. Like there are teams that were dynasties because they kept on winning championships, where unfortunately for us, we've only seen one. But, man, every single year I get to put on the Eagles green and say, wow, there's a legitimate shot that they could do something this year. So they're one of the more successful franchises in the NFL. And I want to try to find out today, what is it that they do? And obviously it's not just one answer. There's multiple things, which is why we would love to hear from you as well at 610-632-0975 on the phone line and on the text line. What are some of the things that the Eagles do that sets them apart from a lot of the other teams in the NFL?
And one thing about it, when we frame this conversation, and when we talked about it yesterday, what we're going to be talking about, on the ride home, I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, wait a minute here. There is one thing that really does set it apart crazily, is the idea that the Eagles do this run of excellence in a salary cap sport.
Yeah.
That is the hardest sport to sustain. Football is built to tear you down and to try to get everybody to be like 9-7, 7-9, right in that neighborhood. What the Eagles have managed to do is unbelievable in a salary cap sport because everybody's on an even playing field.
Yeah. Now,
it's not a soft cap like in the NBA.
no, it's a salary cap.
It is a salary cap that you have to manage. So you got to be great at numbers. You have to be good, really, really good at talent evaluation. You have to get a little luck.
Yeah, of
which
course.
Nick Foles.
Look, that whole Super Bowl run was luck. Like, let's be honest.
And to me, I think that it's when I compare it to where we're at in this city, it amazes me that the Eagles are the team that is able to sustain because they've got the hardest sport to sustain in.
Yeah. And look, some of that has to do with the owner because you mentioned the
he's
salary
unbelievable.
cap. He is willing to do signing bonuses, right? And just pay up
Pay
front.
cash up front.
Right, which does not go up against your cap. And Jeffrey Lurie realizes, all right, I can get the best players as long as I'm just paying money out of pocket. And look, he's got the money to do it. But
He
how
does.
many owners have we complained about, not here in Philadelphia, but how many times have we said, oh, man, look at the Marlins ownership. They just sell players all the time. Jeffrey Lurie is always opening up his pocket for the best players available. And you have to celebrate that.
And Jerry Jones has the most expensive, profitable franchise in all of pro sports. And Jerry Jones doesn't spend like Jeffrey Lurie.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense to me because when you're talking about that you're being talked about as a multi-billionaire. Jerry Jones sells the Cowboys today. He's probably selling them for $4 billion, something like that.
I would think so,
I
yeah.
mean, and so when you're a multi-billionaire,
By the way, his net worth is $14.1 billion.
how are you not doing what Jeffrey Lurie does? How do you not have that in your business model to say, okay, wait a minute here. I'm 76 years old, 77 years old. I got to win now.
Right.
But Jeffrey Lurie has been committed to it since his 50s. And Jeffrey Lurie's committed to it in every bone of the organization. And I think it also plays out into how other organizations in this town, like John Middleton, do things.
Well, yeah, absolutely, because they see how crazy we are about the Eagles, and they saw the parade on Broad Street back in 2018, February, what would have been 7th, 2018, when we did the parade.
Well, February 4th changed my life forever.
Right, that was the Super Bowl, but the parade itself, when you saw the millions of people
Yes.
all up on Broad Street, up the Parkway, around the museum, I mean, every team wants that in this city, and they know how hungry the Eagles fans are. And, dude, I also wonder, are we part of it?
What do you mean?
Are the Eagles fans part of the reason why this team has been so successful?
Explain
because
that.
Howie Roseman himself has said, in Philadelphia, you can't do a rebuild. Howie said it, I forget when it was. It might have been after the season ended. It might have been leading up to the draft.
I remember that.
It was this year. It was in 2024. Howie Roseman said, in the city of Philadelphia, you can't go through a rebuild because, we are a ravenous fan base. Now, with the Sixers, we went through. With the Flyers, we've jumped on board. With the Phillies, we jumped on board. But the Eagles are a different beast. And unless you're drafting number 1 overall, look, even when they got Carson Wentz, they traded up from 13. It's not like they
traded up twice.
Right. 13 to 8 to 2 or whatever it was. Like, it's not like they were the worst team in football and got Carson Wentz and rebuilt. They were a bad football team for 1 year.
And then managed to turn it into something.
And get to the Super Bowl 2 years later. I mean, I do think we are part of it.
Okay, are you giving us – now, the question is this. Are you giving us credit for that?
Yes.
So you do. You think it's a credit-worthy thing.
I
wonder about that.
Have the Eagles been enjoyable?
No, they've been very
years?
enjoyable. and to me, so enjoyable.
Man, dude, the second Howie Roseman makes a bad decision, #FireHowie is trending on Twitter. I think he doesn't want that anymore.
I got to tell you, one night having a philosophical conversation with my wife last year when I was ill. And I said, I'm actually embarrassed when you take it. I said, I'm actually embarrassed how much February 4th, 2018 would mean to me if it was my last day on earth. I'm actually embarrassed by it because how much that day, the joy of that event, how much it meant to me as just a lifetime of, oh my gosh, this was, and I kept saying to myself, was it worth waiting for? As my wife would say, was it worth waiting for? And I'm like, yes, but damn, was it painful.
Yeah, of course it was.
But being an Eagles fan to me has never been painful like being a Phillies fan, like being a Sixers fan, like being even the Flyers fan.
Yeah.
Over the years.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a beautiful, beautiful team that we have gone through a lot of heartbreak. You have gone through not just heartbreak, you have gone through hell, right? Like, Connor and I have experienced heartbreak, not hell.
But you know what, though? The hell has actually, it's almost like I don't remember it. I swear to you. It's almost like I can't remember Buddy Ryan, who some morons, and I will say it, still celebrate in this town as being some great coach, that Buddy Ryan was celebrated in this town, never won a freaking playoff game, and the fans of this town celebrated him because we were so damn thirsty.
Right.
We were happy to just be relevant. You know what Jeffrey Lurie did? They changed the definition of the Eagles being relevant.
Right. So I want to try to find out today. And look, this is something where we will come up with a list of things. What makes the Eagles such a successful franchise? Why is it that we can take a step back, take your green goggles off sometimes, and go, man, you know what? We have it really good here. The Eagles are a very successful franchise. You look at the other top teams in the NFL, every once in a while there's blips. Like the Houston Texans. Like, look, they're a fun team right now, right? Have they been as successful as the Eagles in the last 24 years? Absolutely not. Right? There might be teams on the rise, but the Eagles are always hovering around the top of the NFL. Even the Pittsburgh Steelers, who everybody gives credit to Mike Tomlin. It's amazing what he does, right? Mike Tomlin is always finding ways to finish above 500. Just finishing above 500 isn't good enough here.
I've said it many times. I believe Mike Tomlin would have been fired here.
Probably.
I don't think Mike Tomlin would be celebrated here the way he's celebrated in Pittsburgh.
Because we always want more.
And the Steelers.
And that might not be fair.
No, it might not be. That's why I was saying to you earlier, is it something that we should celebrate? But do we as a fan base, push the Eagles to greatness?
I think we help.
Like, do we push them by putting that kind of pressure on it? And is that maybe what pushed a John Middleton into making that?
Yes, I believe so.
Into making that commitment.
So. Yeah, I think so. And I think part of it is because of us. And look, obviously, Howie Roseman does a tremendous job.
Absolutely.
Jeffrey Lurie's a tremendous owner. But I do think the fan base does deserve a little bit of credit because it is different here. So you can climb in on the phone line or text line 610-632-0975. Why are the Eagles such a successful franchise? What is it that they do? And I have some things off the top of my head. Like, we talk about organizational philosophy all the time that we will get to. And this conversation will eventually go into the other teams in the city. But I want to focus on the Eagles first because, let's face it, they are number one in terms of success year in and year out, or at least since the turn of the century to 2000. The Eagles have been the best team in Philadelphia. Now, the hottest team in sports right now is your freaking Philadelphia Phillies, man. Another win last night, 10-1. As Connor said before the show, he could be pitching and they would win last night. They probably win 10-9.
Yeah, but that's all right.
But the Phillies would still win. Bryce Harper with a grand slam yesterday. The Phillies have won every game that he has hit a home run in so far this season. What did you say, Connor? He has 10 RBIs in his last 3 home runs or something like that? 10
RBIs worth of home runs in the past 3 games. A 3-run 3 games ago, a 3-run yesterday or 2 days ago, and then the grand slam yesterday. The guy's on fire.
It's unbelievable. And they just go out there and they beat the crap out of a fun Blue Jays team. They beat the crap out of them yesterday. And now, now all of a sudden, people are starting to do the we're seeing the standings. Three-game lead over the Braves.
I've asked everybody to wait until Memorial Day, which is my day, and my timeline's still polluted with many of the good people from Dixie that check in with me and like, oh yeah, the Phillies have been playing nobody. I'm like, well, I don't check the standings till Memorial Day, but I'm glad you guys are obsessing on it.
They are obsessing over it.
They're obsessing on it.
That's how you know this team is really, really good. Because the last 2 years, what has been the national reaction to the Phillies? This team is fun.
Yeah.
Oh, we can root for this team. They're a really cool playoff team. When the rest of Major League Baseball starts hating you, that's when you know you've got a damn good baseball team.
The thing is, the last 2 falls have created Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees, and the Boogeyman all rolled into one for the city of Atlanta.
Yes.
They see the Phillies, and it's like, well, we can beat you in the regular season, but you know what? Come October, you're crapping your pants. When you come into Citizens Bank
Park.
I
would say the city of L.A. probably goes, what the hell is this team doing? Because the Dodgers, they've choked away 2 series now. And I know the Phillies fell short last year, and we're all upset about that, but man, I mean, there are teams like the Dodgers and Braves that are probably wondering, what is it about this Phillies team that it doesn't matter whether they're underdogs, they're going to find a way to win. And I will go back to it. I talked to you guys about this yesterday when I was in spring training this year, interviewing players. Man, there's a business-like feel, and they are going out there every single night, no matter who they're playing. There's not like I'm going to guess right now when they go to Miami, which is their next series. usually it's that sleepy series where they drop a game that they shouldn't lose. I expect them to win another series.
And that's and the weird thing is I remember, I don't know why those words, I remember you broadcasting down there in Clearwater and hearing that and thinking to myself, businesslike approach seems contrary to what my vision is of the Phillies.
Right.
My vision of the Phillies is dancing on my own and having fun and goofing off and the special handshakes and everything.
And
when
they're
you're
still doing all that.
But when you're talking about business-like approach, I'm going, Andrew, what are you talking about? Like I'm thinking in my head, what's he talking about? This team they don't tend to carry themselves, but you didn't mean button up.
No, not like that.
You meant
not like
focused.
Not like the Yankee way.
They're freaking focused.
Yeah.
They are so focused and so right now, so comfortable. And anybody who tells you it doesn't matter, well, it's still early, talk to me in August. When you're piling up wins like this, I just want to give you a number this morning. If
Give me a magic number?
If they played 500 ball the rest of the way, they win 89 games.
If they played 500 ball, that's amazing.
They win 89 games. What'd they win last year, 90?
90 even.
So when you're talking about, oh, it's early, and what are you talking about? But if they play 500 the rest of the way, they're going to win 89 games.
That's unbelievable.
I mean,
you know they're going to play better than 500 ball.
And you know that they're going to be. So it just shows you is that everything matters. And we begged for them to get off to a great start.
Yep.
Don't be pumping the brakes. Don't be doing, oh, well, let's worry about it in August. BS. We got nothing to worry about. Sixers are done. Flyers are done. Eagles are still 3.5 months away. Celebrate it.
I had a person.
Enjoy it.
So I put out you remember those numbers I gave you yesterday about the Phillies 4 aces this year compared to
by the way,
2011? Thank you.
Were you getting gripped for that piece,
There was
by the way?
one person that immediately said, hey, slow down, don't speak too soon. I'm like, dude, I'm not saying Spencer Turnbull's Roy Halladay, all right, but I'm trying to enjoy this moment right now where my baseball team is the best team in the league. As of this moment, the Philadelphia Phillies are the best team in Major League Baseball. Even though they got off to a little slow start, nobody here was panicking and saying how this lineup sucked and this is going to be a mess. We waited for guys to turn their season around. Nobody should have been worried about Bryce Harper, Bill Colarulo, right? Like, nobody should have been worried about Bryce.
I credit our own Bill Colarulo.
Yes.
I credit Bill because he created the content that made Bryce Harper go,
yeah, it's Bill.
What is going on here?
Thank you, Bill.
I'm Bryce freaking Harper. People are doubting me. I love it. But I know Bill, in his fandom, he was just asking a question.
Right, I know he was
Look,
just asking a question.
we all ask dumb questions, though. We all have.
Yes, absolutely.
Every one of us.
But just another great night for the Phillies yesterday. A 10 spot, and then they go for the 2-game sweep today, this afternoon.
And by the way, much like I found out about the Flyers and the draft lottery before I spoke last night, before my speech, my daughter says to me at the table before I go up, Dad, Bryce Harper grand slam.
Connor told me.
Yeah, I got to give a shout out to Tommy at the bar, who's a listener to the program.
I met Tommy afterwards.
Yeah, he had the game on his phone. Now, I was watching, John. I caught your old speech, but he just flips the phone over to me. And he's like, yo, check it out. And I saw 10-1. I'm like, oh, my goodness.
Awesome.
Harper, she goes, Dad, Harper grand slam. And I was like, okay, that fires me up.
That's amazing.
I'm ready to go.
So, look, I want to just hear Phillies excitement. We were talking about this before the show. It's hard to give like what's the topic for the Phillies? There really is none, right? It's just celebrate success. And I want to do that today. I want to celebrate the success of the Phillies start to this season. And I also want to celebrate the success of the Eagles franchise over the last 24 years. But I want to find out. Let's try to get to the bottom of this, or the multiple reasons why. What makes the Eagles such a successful franchise? You can text in, call in 610-632-0975. Now, I will say this.
Okay.
We gave the Eagles a lot of flowers to start this segment. Should we have some concerns?
Well, somebody was throwing manure on it, and
there was a player yesterday, and maybe you need the manure for the flowers, as Nick Sirianni likes to plant.
Yes,
there was a player yesterday that gave probably the most damning answer as to why everything went to crap last year. Because everybody was very buttoned up about what happened last season. We may have gotten the most damning answer about what happened last season. We'll tell you who that was next and also what they said, because we'll have to discuss this one, because I got to find out if that's going to worry us moving forward. It's Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic. Would love to get your reaction to today's question on the phone line or the text line, 610-632-0975. What makes the Eagles such a successful franchise? Why are the Eagles such a successful franchise? There's many reasons, right? There's not going to be one. We started off with Jeffrey Lurie just being the incredible owner that he is, because he's always willing to spend top dollar, giving up money on signing bonuses, and that's why you're able to acquire guys like Saquon Barkley on such a cheap deal when it comes to the cap, but he probably got a high signing bonus, right?
People don't understand the math of it.
Oh, yeah, it's a big deal. I mean, he is paying out of pocket to pay for these players up front, and that is something that should be celebrated, because there are a lot of owners, most owners in most sports, that would not do that, and yet he does that year in and year out, and that's why the Eagles are always at the top of the list of power rankings and standings, even though last year went to crap, and we're going to get to that in a second.
Sure.
But the fact that they were even 10-1 at one point tells you how amazing that this team can be year in and year out. So what makes the Eagles such a successful franchise? This has been going on for 24 years now, people. Would love to hear from you, 610-632-0975. And then just overall excitement for the Phillies, because there is no hard-hitting topic where we're going to debate and we're going to yell and scream and we're going to say, no, you're an idiot. No, you're an idiot. Let's celebrate the Phillies, who just beat the doors off the Blue Jays last night, 10-1, and have a league-best 26-11 record. 26-11, and we are just 8 days into the month of May. It is absolutely incredible.
And are you of the belief that what you're seeing is sustainable? Because to me, to hit at this rate, to put up these kind of runs, I think it's ridiculous to think that it is sustainable. But
I think what they're on pace for 113 wins right now. Like, I don't expect that.
But I absolutely believe, I'm always a believer that pitching is more sustainable than hitting.
I would go the complete opposite way.
So you go the opposite way.
I think the hitting is much more sustainable than, like, everyone in the rotation being sub-3. Like,
Yeah.
You've had Ranger Suarez is going to have rough starts. Zach Wheeler is going to have rough starts. Like, they're not
Don't
just
tell me that.
It's going to happen
Don't
at
tell
some
me that.
point.
Ranger's not going to lose a start this season.
Yeah.
He's 6-0 through 7 starts.
Like 30-0.
He's not going to lose a start, and he's going to win his Cy Young. I see a lot of people already picking up their Cy Young tickets. People are still buying them.
They're still buying
And
them.
Ranger Suarez is probably still at a pretty good deal, because the league doesn't really know who Ranger Suarez is.
Here's why I say no, Connor, is that I believe that when you look at the top players in the game, the top pitchers in the game tend to be the top pitchers in the game over and over and over and over and over. The top hitters in the game, sometimes you see the spikes.
And I'll tell you why you're incorrect.
Why is that?
Because there are 9 guys that hit every night. If Bryce Harper has a bad night, there are 8 guys that pick him up.
Yeah.
If one pitcher has a bad night, bang, you're in trouble.
You mean like Jose Barrios yesterday?
Exactly.
Who went,
like that.
that's
who went
wild.
3 2/3, 7 hits, 8 earned against the Phillies last night. Just another incredible win. So overall, Phillies excitement as well at 610-632-0975. But let's get the warm and fuzzies off the table for a second.
All right.
Do we have to?
So yesterday, who was this? C.J. Stroud's podcast? I don't know whose podcast it was, but Kenneth Gainwell.
First of all, what? No, don't even get me started.
I got you. Kenneth Gainwell. First, we heard from Paul Reed. We heard from Garrett Stubbs.
Yeah, we did.
Now we're playing Kenneth Gainwell.
Seriously.
A lot of the backups like to open up their mouths in Philadelphia.
My
apparently.
gosh.
So Kenneth Gainwell was on a podcast, and I saw the clip yesterday when I was en route to your ceremony yesterday.
Thank you.
In the Uber. I was not
You were
looking
in
at
the
my
Uber.
phone and
Yes, very
driving
good.
because I was going to make sure I had fun yesterday. So Kenneth Gainwell was asked about what the hell went wrong last year. And to his credit, even though he shouldn't be the one talking, to his credit, he's probably the one that actually opened up the most, because Howie Roseman would just say, we need to do a better job evaluating players. Nick Sirianni gave the I need to do a better job answer over and over and over again. The only other damning answer was Lane Johnson, who said that the 49ers kind of destroyed us.
Stole our hearts.
He stole our hearts. That's what he said. Well,
They
it was
tore
with
our
Dan
hearts out,
Patrick,
and,
I believe it was.
It was on the Dan Patrick show at
Right,
the Super Bowl.
At the Super Bowl. So Lane Johnson was really the only one that, because even Jason Kelsey didn't say anything on his podcast, right? He barely said anything. All these platforms, nobody really said anything. But Kenneth Gainwell, now in May, was the first one to open up about what went wrong for the Eagles. Take a listen.
What do you think it was that caused that sudden change?
I think it was a connection piece. You know, I say teams like the Chiefs, bro, are like well connected, upstairs and downstairs. You know, front office and the locker room. Like everybody's connected. When you got that connection piece, bro, everything just click. When you got guys that's not talking to each other, then you know you never know what's going on. You know, so like if we all sit down and talk to each other and find out what's going on, or we find out what we need to do on the field to get this thing going, then, we'll be good. Because if we play real hard in the beginning of the season, we need to continue to play hard at the end of the season, because at the end of the season would really matter. That would really matter, because when we get to the playoffs, we're not playing good, and we still got our head down because we just lost 5 games. What you think we're going to do in the playoffs?
So that was the JV University podcast with JV and Elliott, and Kenneth Gainwell was the guest.
Who's that? I mean, I don't know the podcast. I mean, I don't want to listen to it. But it
might be good.
It might be. It might be very good. And I mean, that was good content there.
So Kenny G talks about
Kenny G. I love it.
The best teams. Everybody's connected from top on down.
Okay.
So he's basically inferring that they were not connected from top on down. Now,
and then he wanders into, if you play hard in the beginning of the season, you got to play hard at the end.
Right.
What the hell does that have to do with the whole team?
Well, there were questions.
Like up top and above.
Well, there were questions about whether or not players were playing for themselves or the coaching staff. And, oh, by the way, I still don't believe that Nick Sirianni made the decision to move on from Sean Desai and promote Matt Patricia.
I believe you are correct.
I still believe that happened from up top, so maybe that had something to do with it. Guys that literally did not like Matt Patricia or liked Sean Desai now all of a sudden had to try to change everything midway through a season. So Kenneth Gainwell is pretty much telling you that there was a connection lost somewhere in the locker room, either from front office to player, player to player, player to coach, coach to player. I mean, there were issues. And I kept on saying this, John. I've said this a million times now. You didn't go from 10-1 to 11-6 because you had bad linebackers. You lost games because of your poor linebacker play.
That is correct.
But you don't go in a downward spiral like that because of bad linebackers. Something was going on in that locker room, and that's probably the most that anybody's opened up that has been in the Eagles locker room, that was in the Eagles locker room last year. And, oh, by the way, we'll be in the Eagles locker room again this year. So my question, do you have faith that that's going to be fixed?
It depends. Maybe they've cleaned house of some of the people that they felt weren't playing hard.
Reddick is the name that comes up a lot.
Because to me, the idea is this. I don't know what an issue with the upstairs has to do with a professional being a professional and playing hard. I can't grasp it.
Mm-hmm.
If something happens with a boss, and I don't like what's happened with a boss, and I show up and I give a half-ass effort, that's on me. Don't blame the boss. Don't blame what's going on around us, whatever. You show up and do a half-ass show and don't pay. That's on you.
Right.
So I hate the, well, there was stuff going on. It was the thing. You make a choice every damn day, whether you're an electrician, whether you're a football player, whether you're a baseball player, whatever. Are you going to be a professional or are you not?
I got you. But I will say,
to me,
but John,
it's weak. It's weak.
I will say this.
Yes.
It was tremendous reporting by guys like Tim McManus and Jeff McClain right before the playoff game. There was very detailed issues that were being reported on. Like somebody's talking, right? That could have been from upstairs. And if you're a player, you're about to go into a playoff game. Like a lot of Eagles fans were upset with Tim McManus for posting that story about Jalen Hurts not liking the offense the day of a playoff game, as if Tim McManus is supposed to be a fan and only put out a fluff piece the day of a playoff game. No, he put out. He's not a fan. He's a journalist, so he put out a damning story. But I wonder if there was a player in the locker room reading that story going, really? On game day, this story's coming out?
Like, what's going on here?
Right, and I'm sure that could also be the...
That might be.
Not that they didn't play hard after that story came out, but I wonder, once stuff starts coming out like that, once you start getting anonymous source, Derek Gunn, it was after the Niners game. It was the first time in the Sirianni era that an anonymous source came out and said something. And they talked about how the offense became too predictable. Once that stuff starts going out there, it's like wildfire, man.
When I hear Kenny Gainwell say that upstairs and downstairs and everything like that, To me, that goes back to exactly what your point was. I think it comes down to the Sean Desai firing.
Could be.
And, demotion. When Sean Desai got demoted at that point,
He got fired. Let's be honest.
Yes, he
because
did.
the second the season ended, he was out.
It threw the team into turmoil. It threw that locker room into turmoil, and they didn't handle it.
Because they might not be able to look, they were 10-1.
Yeah, they were. Well, when they got rid of him, they were 10-3.
They were 10-3.
10-3.
But after they won against the Bills was when they took away his third down cover.
Yes, where they made him the third down guy.
He was only the first and second down coach, and Patricia was the third down coach. And I wonder if players start going, well, hold on a secin. We're
Like, what are we doing?
We're
here?
10-1, and we're doing this drastic change.
I think the front office, which we all are in agreement, the front office made that move.
That has to have
Okay,
been.
or
There's
was
no way Nick Sirianni had that power.
Or was heavily involved in making that move.
Right.
To me, they blinked as much as any one of the players blinked by making that move. I would have ridden it out. I'm telling you, I wouldn't have cared. If I was an executive, I would have ridden it out with Sean Desai. Win or lose, would have to have been it. Because I wouldn't have been trusting Matt Patricia. Because, again, I wouldn't trust Matt Patricia to lead a bachelor party to a strip club. Honestly, he has not been a leader of men. He has not been. In fact, he's failed at that many, many times, and it's been vocal. Darius Slay was one of his biggest detractors. And to me, that's a problem. And I think the front office blinked. And if the front office blinked, then it sets everything into turmoil.
So, again, look, today's main topic is what has made the Eagles such a successful franchise over the 24 years. I'll say the 30 years that Jeffrey Lurie's owned the team. But let's face it, since the turn of the century was when things really changed. But I do want to get some answers from you about this as well. Are you worried about things maybe carrying over into the season? I'm not saying all of a sudden the Eagles are this franchise that's going to blow up and we're going to have to be in a rebuild. It's going to be 5 years of darkness. No. Will there be a carryover effect from last year? As I've said a million times, they didn't go from 10-1 to 11-6 because of poor linebacker play. There was issues inside the locker room, whether it was player to player, coach to player, player to GM, whatever it was. There were issues, and Kenneth Gainwell opened up about that during that podcast. So we'll talk more about that as well. You can call in or text in 610-632-0975. Going to get to the text line and the phone line coming your way next. More reaction to Kenneth Gainwell, and of course, the happy stuff. What makes the Eagles such a successful franchise? There's a million things that we could probably come up with. Let's put together that list. And also, Phillies fun. We have a text on the Phillies that fired me up that Connor gave us during the last break. It's Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic. Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic. Going to get to your texts and your calls this segment. Our topics to start the show: what makes this Eagles such a successful franchise? Over the course of 24 years, since the turn of the century, the Eagles have always been considered one of the best franchises. And there's a million things. I'll give you one of the answers. Organizational philosophy, which is building in the trenches, man. It's something that they have been doing, which is why we still didn't think that they would draft Quinyon Mitchell in this year's draft, because it's something that they have stuck to, and it has worked. And time again, John, we have watched teams get these rookie quarterbacks. Like, look at the Bengals with Joe Burrow. Their first thing to do after they got Joe Burrow was draft Jamar Chase. What happened? Joe Burrow's leg blew up because they didn't have an offensive line to protect him. How many times have you heard about rookie quarterbacks that eventually start seeing ghosts because there is no line to protect them? Now, the reason why your team was drafting that high was probably because your offensive line sucked, but you got to give your quarterback protection. And there are so many teams that just don't believe in that. And with the pass-happy league that you're in nowadays, you better have a good offensive line, and you also better have good defensive linemen and edge rushers, which is something the Eagles always focus on as well.
I love the fact of the stability. Stability to me is the number one thing. Is that, like, it's weird. It's like we just started to all work together in the morning, even though I worked with Connor before. The idea is that I always know who's walking in the door in the morning. We all sort of come in the same way every day. I hate up and down.
I was a little more tired today.
You were a little more tired, and you may have reeked of something. But it was those old fashions were good.
Old fashions.
But it was like the idea of, like, stability for me might be my number one thing for a franchise. I love stability of a sports team where I can say maybe they're not going to be the greatest team, but they're going to be right there with a chance, and they're going to be consistently very, very good.
Yeah.
There's nothing better to me.
Absolutely. I mean, that's been my entire life. I have not seen an Eagles rebuild, which to you is probably astonishing.
Yeah, I mean, because I saw so many different coaches try to do it.
Yeah.
As a kid, and I thought, but it's almost like, honestly, it's as if the 25 years of this era of Andy Reid when he took over has just been, it's almost flushed my system as far as my life as an Eagles fan. I look at it as just joyous.
Yeah.
I don't look at it as tortured.
Well, because 25 years
tortured.
of success now. I mean, that's what it is. I understand that you had more than 25 years before this.
Oh, my gosh.
But the last 25 years of your life
has been fantastic.
And especially when we live in a world of what have you done for me lately. The Eagles have done a lot of good things for us lately.
But if February 4th, 2018 had not happened,
yeah, it's a different conversation.
I have a feeling I'd still feel very good about the Eagles, but I wouldn't feel great about it.
Absolutely. So we're talking about that. What makes the Eagles such a successful franchise? You can give us a million answers when it comes to this on the phone line or the text line, 610-632-0975. Overall Phillies excitement. And also this Kenneth Gainwell audio. He was on a podcast, and he talked about how part of the reason why teams don't do well is when there's a lack of connection between players, player and coach, player and front office. And I know there's people that want to react to that. We'll get to some text, but first let's go to Dan in Lansdale. Dan, you're on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Dan.
Yo, Dan.
Dan, what is going on?
All right, we'll put Dan on hold, try to clear up that line.
I think Dan's in a washing machine.
Let's go to the text line. What do we got, Connor? Yeah, thanks.
All right. This text comes in from unnamed source here, but isn't the first of Nick Sirianni's core values supposed to be connectivity?
It is.
It is.
It's a great response. It is a great text, and it is part of the reason why I did not want to bring him back, because he was the head coach that oversaw a collapse. And that's why I didn't want to bring him back.
And he was also, there was one thing is obvious, is that there was communication breakdown.
Absolutely.
And if that's your number one core value. Now, I did not want Nick Sirianni shown the door.
No, you did not.
I wanted to give him one more chance to, what I've seen too much winning under him.
But I know how we're going to be, John, and I'm going to probably be the front man for it. If this offense is clicking, it's all because of Kellen Moore.
100%.
no.
It has nothing to do with Nick Sirianni. I'm already in the belief that if the Eagles win the Super Bowl this year, Nick Sirianni deserves zero credit.
Now I'm going to scoff.
That's where I'm at.
Now the thing is, though, I will scoff at you if you do that. But part of me will go,
Party's going to believe it.
he just might be right. Because I am all Kellen Moored up.
It's not even what you believe, though. There will be no definitive proof that you can point to that says Sirianni is doing this.
You're absolutely correct. No, there will be.
There will be if the players in the locker room talk about it.
Is that when you go down, I can tell you the energy. Now, last year I did not get to spend a lot of time due to isolation.
Yes, of course.
I did not get to spend a lot of time. I can tell you from my previous couple years, being able to go down to the locker room, being able to be around stuff, you would hear players talk about.
Is it fair to say significantly less, though, considering like the drawback and responsibilities that we've heard about?
Could be. And, John,
No,
don't forget,
absolutely.
they were speaking so glowingly of him when things were going well.
No question. And
Things did not go well last year. And the only people that spoke glowingly of him were the guys that left.
And that is
the ones that retired.
I still can't get past.
Hurts still hasn't said anything.
I still can't get past the fact that Jalen Hurts didn't throw him a bone.
What?
I mean, to me, it's absolutely absurd that your franchise quarterback did not toss Nick Sirianni a life preserver of positivity when he had the chance. To me, that still pisses me off. It honestly still annoys me as
why?
Because of the fact that,
What if he didn't want to?
well, then he didn't have a mirror. Because I would say, Jalen, what did your head coach do for you when you decided to go rogue, not follow the playbook, not follow the play call, and you and A.J. Brown decided to play cowboy to try to win a game? Nick Sirianni stood behind a microphone, shielded you from the critique, and took a bullet for you. When you were given the opportunity, you didn't do the same twice. And to me, that made me lose a little bit of respect for my quarterback.
All right. We'll continue this conversation. We got more texts coming in about the Gainwell comments that I want to get to. Also, I have a question for you about what makes this Eagles franchise so successful. And one of my questions is about something that a lot of people have complained about in the past. And I wonder if it's part of the reason why they are successful. It's Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic. 6 to 10, Monday through Friday. We're live right now. Good Wednesday morning, Philadelphia. It is 7 o'clock. Kincade and Salciunas. Got a couple of topics on hand for you that I will let you know about, and we will discuss them, and we will get more of your reaction on the phone line and the text line at 610-632-0975. And this segment, we will start also turning the page to some of the other teams in this city when we talk about these successful franchises in Philadelphia. But we opened up the show. I asked why the Eagles are such a successful franchise. What is it that they do that makes them such a successful organization? Because over the last 24 years, since the turn of the century, we have said it a million times on these airwaves. National media members have said it, a million times, that the Eagles have been one of the better franchises in the NFL since the turn of the century. We're trying to figure out why. I gave you organizational philosophy, building through the trenches. I've seen so many teams draft rookie quarterbacks, top 3, but they have traffic cones protecting him. And right, and then
they wonder what happens.
And then they get hurt, and then it's, oh my God, I thought that guy was a can't-miss starter. Look, Nick Foles was amazing during the playoff run, right? Amazing. He also had a ridiculously good offensive line in front of you, right? Like, I don't want to say you're only as good as the offensive line in front of you.
He had one of the best ever.
But it really helps.
He did.
It really helps having a tremendous offensive line, and that's something that the Eagles always focus on, the trenches. And I think that's something that makes them such a successful organization. We've talked about ownership. Jeffrey Lurie, willing to spend a lot of money out of pocket up front with signing bonuses, which helps you stay under the cap. We always talk about, oh, my God, how he's a cap wizard. How does he do it? Well, part of it's Jeffrey Lurie opening up his wallet.
It's a major part of it. By the way, yesterday, I heard best show ever. I heard Tyrone explain the NBA salary cap in a way that was honestly, we should cut it, edit it, and just play it for people who don't understand how the NBA cap works.
Mm-hmm.
It was beautifully done by Ty. The NFL salary cap, when we talk about Jeffrey Lurie paying the money, he goes, John, it is a same cap. Alan here. He goes, John, it's the same cap for everybody. You guys praising Lurie for paying the money. Every owner pays the money. You don't understand, though, is that when you pay people in roster bonuses, they are then spread out. So if you hear that Lane Johnson gets a $10 million roster bonus, it can then be spread out over the remaining years of the contract, which then takes away from the cap hit of that season and spreads it out. And then the cap goes up every year, so it makes it less of an issue. So Jeffrey Lurie spending that money up front. Jerry Jones doesn't do it. A lot of owners don't do it.
The New York Giants
they won't spend it.
That's the prime example, right?
The Maras.
Jalen Hurts was paid. He was the highest paid quarterback in the NFL for 6 minutes until somebody else got paid, right? You look at his cap hits, it is not even close to what a Daniel Jones cap hit is.
If they gave Daniel Jones, if John Mara, I think it's still John Mara, if John Mara wrote a check for $30 million up front to Daniel Jones, that would have been spread out over the whole contract, and the cap hit would have been better, and the Giants would, in theory, be better. So, yes, praise Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman.
I'm surprised there's somebody not praising Jeffrey Lurie.
Well, no, he said, he goes, John, it's all the same money in the end.
Well,
no, it's not.
No,
it's different.
It's like buying a car upfront cash as opposed to
financing it.
Getting you a good rate financing.
Right.
Like Jeffrey Lurie is buying his kid a car straight up, not saying, yo, you got to pay interest on this.
If Julian can't buy his own car,
well,
I'm literally taking my kid in the office and smacking him.
I think Julian's doing all right for himself,
too. I think he is.
But what makes the Eagles such a great, successful franchise? I know it's only meant one Super Bowl since the turn of the century, one Super Bowl victory because they've made three appearances. But, man, this team is always in the running every single year. And the years you think they're not going to play well, look, I thought they were going to go into a rebuild. After they traded away Carson Wentz, because I didn't think Jalen Hurts was going to be this franchise quarterback that he is. I thought that they were about to go into a rebuild, and they didn't. It was a one-year retool, and they go to the Super Bowl the very next year. And then the following year, they go 10-1 in the first 11 weeks. And then, of course, there were some issues, which is another topic today, because Kenneth Gainwell was on a podcast. Let's play it one more time for those of you who have not heard this yet, because I don't know, with all due respect to the host of the podcast, whose name I don't even remember. My bad, Connor. You told me, and I already forget it. And I don't know if many people are seeking out Kenneth Gainwell audio.
Javian Elliott of Javian University's podcast.
By the way, good for him getting this audio. By the way,
absolutely.
We're not mocking it.
No,
we're saying we just didn't know.
Never heard of the guy, right? So Kenneth Gainwell was a guest on his podcast, and he was asked about what went wrong last season because we know the Eagles went through a spiral, and Kenneth Gainwell gave an answer.
What do you think it was that caused that sudden change?
I think it was a connection piece. I say teams like the Chiefs, bro, are like well connected upstairs and downstairs. Front office and the locker room. Like everybody's connected. When you got that connection piece, bro, everything just click. When you got guys that's not talking to each other, then you never know what's going on. So like if we all sit down and talk to each other and find out what's going on, or we find out what we need to do on the field to get this thing going, then, we'll be good. Because if we play real hard in the beginning of the season, we need to continue to play hard at the end of the season, because at the end of the season would really matter. That would really matter, because when we get to the playoffs, we're not playing good, and we still got our head down because we just lost 5 games. What you think we're going to do in the playoffs?
I mean, it tells you that there were issues, whether it was player to player, player to coach, player to front office. There were issues with the Eagles. It wasn't just because of poor linebacker play. And we had a caller who we went to, but, it sounded like he was in a tornado, and he dropped off. He was going to say, what would Kenneth Gainwell know about the defense? He's on the offense.
I can't believe that. I'm not trying to mock the caller, but I can't believe he'd actually ask that question.
John, the show that we're on,
right?
It's John Kincade, Andrew Salciunas, Connor Thomas,
yes.
Brendan Gunn, Haley,
right.
Brandon filling in for Haley right now, right? That's the morning show.
That's us.
I talked to Bob Cooney.
What? You talked to Bob Cooney?
I talked to Ray Dunn.
I talked to Bob only during the crossover. It's amazing. No, I mean, you hear, more importantly, in an NFL locker room, there are absolutely the defensive players huddled, they're together.
Yes.
In the locker room. The offensive players are together. They literally are across the room for each other. You don't think they talk?
Right.
You don't think they walk in from the parking lot together? You don't think they cross paths in the weight room?
I don't think Kenneth Gainwell is breaking down the film for the linebackers, but I think he might know if somebody's upset.
He certainly
might know
does.
if Darius Slay is angry that Matt Patricia got hired.
I
right?
mean, and I can tell you this, is when Matt Patricia got brought in, I think that was where some of this problem came about. I really do.
I do too. And look, was it just a coincidence that the second he got promoted to defensive coordinator, everything went to crap? I don't think so.
No, I don't either. And part of it though is, I think some of the players, and this is again, I got back into the press box and everything late in the year.
Yep.
But all I was doing was hearing things from great guys who cover the team and everything, and just having conversations. I think that there were guys whose listening ears tuned out
once that change was made. Yeah.
And they got frustrated, and a few of them articulated, we're trying to learn a new system, a defensive system in December.
Yeah.
And I think for some guys, they're like, screw it. This is ridiculous.
And players
what are we doing?
Spoke out. Josh Sweat spoke out about players playing for themselves and not the team. He himself said it.
He did.
So,
by the way, and Fletcher Cox did too.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of questions, again, fair or not, whether that was why some of the cleansing of the roster has occurred.
It could have been. And you gave us a crazy number yesterday.
It's amazing.
That the Eagles have the 9th most turnover from roster from last year to this year in the NFL.
As of today. And I asked you, what did you think the number was?
I said middle of the pack.
Okay.
Connor said like
27th? Or,
yeah, dude.
Okay. The Eagles are 9th. There are only 8 teams in the NFL that have done more roster turnover since their final game than the Eagles have.
Yeah.
And to me, now look, a lot of the teams are very closely bunched.
Right.
The Eagles being 9th, the Eagles could
They're probably close to 10.
The Eagles could be 16th with 2 player moves.
Right.
Or 17th.
But they could also probably have climbed up to 5.
Absolutely.
Like if James Bradbury is no longer on the team, that probably
or if Josh Sweat gets moved.
And,
like,
that to me tells me that's a drastic makeover for a team that was 10-1 and made the playoffs. But I'm damn glad it happened.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Even though we are not happy with the Hassan Reddick move, none of us are.
Nope.
So we're still there.
But so answer the question, 610-632-0975.
Kind of you.
What makes the Eagles such a successful franchise? But then I will ask, when you hear what Kenneth Gainwell had to say, does that cause you some concern going into next season that you think it might carry over? I think a cleanse was done. and I think they will be better off next year. But I will not forget what Brian Westbrook said to Bob Cooney the first day Bob Cooney hosted the midday show, that they better get off to a hot start, because if they don't, a lot of people will look at the head coach and say, oh, yeah, you were here last year too. That's something that will always be imprinted in my brain. So, Eagles, Nick, you guys better get off to a hot start. Do we have text coming in there, Connor?
Absolutely, we do.
Right.
Jack from Center Valley checks in and says, besides the coach, how come not a single team leader or anyone from the 53 players not stand up and shut that drama down at some point in the season?
I would agree with you.
Yeah.
Who was that, Jack?
Jack, yes.
Jack, I got to tell you, you're a smart man, because I've said it before. The most overhyped thing ever to me is when I hear the term veteran leadership, because one thing that is required is guys have to be willing to fall in line and learn best practices from the best players.
Now, I will
There was a problem.
I'll give A.J. Brown credit. He led the players-only meeting and then did the outing. They did the escape room.
They did the escape room.
Right, where 30 players went to, not all 53.
A little too on the nose to do an escape room, too.
Right.
Can we go like roller skating or something next time?
But at least he
No,
tried.
roller skating.
At least A.J.
What are
Brown
you, an
tried.
idiot? Somebody's going to twist an ankle.
Yeah, you don't want to do that.
All right, fair point.
Walk the roller skating
What's
ring.
it, the
just
spotlight?
walk around it.
Uh-oh, spotlight dance.
Yeah.
Oh, look, Jalen and AJ didn't hold hands during the
Okay,
spotlight
maybe I don't
dance.
plan the outing either.
Seriously.
So I'll give A.J. Brown credit. But here's the thing, like Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham, two guys that were very vocal about it in front of the media. I don't know what they were doing behind closed doors. Like, I remember Fletcher Cox saying, leading up to the Seattle Seahawks game, we're going to find out what this team is really made of. He said it out loud.
He did.
He put the challenge out there. But did he say something in the locker room? I'm not sure. Brandon Graham, I love him to death, Mr. Forever Eagle. I got tired of hearing Brandon Graham say every week, we're fine. We're going to be okay.
We're fine.
We just got to get through this storm. It was a freaking monsoon that was not going away. All right, that storm
drove me
was a
crazy.
Category 5 hurricane, man. Or is it 1?
Drove me. Yeah,
It's 5 eyes.
5. You're
All
thinking DEFCON.
Thank you. DEFCON 1 is the worst. Yes, thank you.
5 is worse. And by the way, every time you go up a number, it's 10 times worse than the number before.
Oh, that's
like it's like an earthquake. A 4
Man,
earthquake.
I work with 2 meteorologists.
A 4 earthquake is 10 times worse than a 3.
I just look at the clouds. I say, oh, it looks like it's going to rain today.
By the way, it is raining out in Chester County, but it will not be raining for the Phils today.
Well, we'll be going to the Phillies game today.
We'll be there.
So I can't wait for that. All right. So let me ask you this question when it comes to the Eagles being a successful franchise. Something that gets criticized a lot by Eagles fans, and hey, myself included.
Okay.
The involvement of ownership and the front office. Remember Jeffrey Lurie drafting J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, right? That was a horrible
Or having
pick.
having a large say in
Right.
that, right.
Howie Roseman, it has been pointed out a lot, is a big part of game planning now leading up to weeks, and also is a big part of who is dressing and who is not. Remember week 1 after they drafted Jalen Hurts? Hurts was not dressed, and it got ripped. Why would we draft this guy in the second round? He's not even going to dress for a football game. Week 2, he dressed. If you remember that, all of a sudden he's dressing. We criticize that. A lot of people criticize that. I think people still criticize it. I criticize the fact that I think Howie Roseman made Matt Patricia the defensive coordinator.
I think you did, and I think it's fair. One thing I would say, though, to the people who have a little bit of that critique, having been around it a lot, I can tell you that I don't believe there's an NFL team where the general manager does not have a say in the 53 that dress on Sunday.
Right.
I don't think there's one team in the league where the general manager is being told, these are the 53 that are dressing, go to your office. And they're always in on it. And, yes, there are general managers, though, who are more heavy-handed.
Right. And Howie is heavy-handed.
In saying, you know, could we get this guy, make sure this guy's getting his shot.
Yeah.
Because they want to be proven right.
Howie is heavy-handed. Now, if I'm Howie Roseman, I would look you in the eye and say, okay, so I won you a Super Bowl. I got you back to another one.
Right. Oh, I guarantee
you. Like this offseason that we just had? Yeah, that's me, baby. This is my production. So, is part of the success of the franchise, I'll ask you both, is part of the success of the franchise because of how heavy-handed Howie is?
No. It's a hard question Because
I would have to say yes.
I think you have to.
I
You
would
have to.
I'd have to say yes.
Ever since Chip left, everything changed. And Howie was Mr. Heavy Hand. It got to a point where it was a detriment to the Eagles, but then he smartened up. He started listening to his scouts more, but he's still very heavy-handed.
He is heavy-handed. but
And it's led to you a Super Bowl appearance after you won the Super Bowl, a second Super Bowl appearance, last year a 10-1 start, and winning the offseason so far on paper and the draft. They got an A+ grade.
the things I hear a lot of things that I hear Howie criticized for. Next time we have Thomas Dimitroff on, we can ask him the question and he'll tell you. Les Snead, the GM of the Rams, I've known Les since he was an intern with the Falcons. That I can tell you, general managers have a heavy hand in how their teams are run. But I think with Howie, it's almost too obvious. It's almost too visible.
Do you think it's because he wants credit?
Yes.
Yeah, but
I do,
But I'll ask
but
you,
the thing is,
has
though-
it been a bad thing?
No, because he's been highly successful.
Yes.
To me. But I absolutely could see how it could potentially. I think there's a reason the Eagles they've had excellent success at hiring coaches. But I think it's a reason why the Eagles hire a Doug Peterson as their coach, hire a Nick Sirianni as their coach.
I completely agree with you.
Because there are coaches who will not be involved in that.
Brian Dable, it's been pretty much reported, Dable did not want to come here because he was not going to be able to have as much say as he would want to. And there's a lot. Look, one of the perfect marriages is Andy Reid and Brett Veach.
It's fantastic.
Like, I'm sure Veach is heavy-handed, but let's face it, that is Andy Reid's production.
No, here's the thing is, Veach, really an Andy Reid hire.
Yeah.
I mean, sort of. It's like
Pretty much,
so,
yeah.
so they're going to find a way to get along.
Right.
They're going to find a way
it's
to be.
Andy's production.
But it's Andy's production.
This is Howie's production. This is not Nick Sirianni's production. It was not Doug Peterson's production. This is Howie Roseman's production, and I don't think you can say that he's not a big part of the reason why they're as successful as they are, and it's probably been a good thing.
I think it's begrudging. People are always begrudgingly complimentary of Howie.
Yes.
And I don't really understand.
Everyone looks at him with a side eye.
I don't really understand why. And I think it's because, and many in our business make fun of his voice, make fun of, oh, look, he's not a football guy, whatever. I think there's a difference between being a football guy and a guy who understands football.
Yeah, well, it's me and
Understands
mentality.
the business.
Right.
Exactly.
And sometimes that pays off, and sometimes it doesn't. But here's something, too, as you bring that up. Think about the successful franchises in the modern NFL, like the two really dynastic teams. I think we're seeing the Chiefs in the middle of one right now.
Patriots.
Yep. Obviously the Patriots. Something to be said of one heavy-handed person over a collaboration might be the way to do it.
And he's lost a little weight. I think you're with
But you're right, Andy.
No, you're right, though.
And that might be why the Eagles haven't had a dynasty. It could be, but at least you're in contention every single year.
Right.
Remember,
By the way, Andy's the second greatest head coach in NFL history. Bill Belichick's the first.
I
is the
think
GOAT.
Andy's the greatest.
He might be.
I would argue Andy being the greatest.
He might be. They're 1A, 1B, 1-2, whatever.
Exactly.
It's those
But
two guys.
There is something to be said about it. And Andy was never going to get to have as much power as he has in Kansas City here. But he still had a ton of power. He's my favorite coach of all time.
He's incredible.
He's my favorite of all time.
All right, so I want to get more answers as to what makes this Eagles such a successful franchise. And there's going to be some that are questionable. That Howie one, I think, is questionable for a lot of people because, to your point, a lot of people don't want to give him the credit. Man, it's his show. The Philadelphia Eagles are the Howie Roseman Philadelphia Eagles. It's his show, man. It is his production with the help of an incredible owner in Jeffrey Lurie.
Okay, are the Phillies Dave Dombrowski's?
Yeah, I think so.
John Middleton.
And Middleton.
Before they are Rob Thompson's?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
I agree, too.
And you know what?
That doesn't happen in baseball as
I'll
much.
say Middleton first. He brought Harper himself.
Well,
Dombrowski was not here yet.
That is the truth.
It's Middleton's show. So speaking of the Phillies, we've been asking the question, what makes the Eagles such a successful franchise? I want to start asking about some of the other teams in the city. So let's start with the Phillies, because let's face it, right now they are a very successful franchise.
They are.
World Series appearance 2 years ago. NLCS last year, the best team in baseball so far this year. What makes the Phillies such a successful organization? We'll get into that coming up next. And also, Bryce Harper will give you some of the numbers from this incredible stretch that he is on. And he has been worth every single penny, which does not happen often in Philadelphia. We don't often have that luck when it comes to the big signing. And he's been worth every single penny. So we'll talk about that next as well. Kincade Salciunas, 97.5, The Fanatic. Want to let you know that coming up at 8 o'clock, we will be doing our cash contest, but it's also an Adam Schefter Wednesday. So Shefty's going to be joining us at 8 o'clock as he does every single week. And I can't wait to have this discussion with him about what makes the Eagles such a successful franchise, because he's going to look at it from a totally different lens than the way we will. I mean, the way he talks to people, he talks to other GMs about the Eagles, right? So I asked him the question, what was it, last week after the draft? I said, when do teams stop answering the phone from Howie? And he did say there are teams that.
Why do people deal with him?
Why do they deal with him? Because it always seems to be in the favor of the Eagles. All these moves. How many times have we seen a trade where we go, man, Howie fleeced them?
Well, the weird thing is that I remember a time when football trades hardly happened.
Right.
And I think the salary cap going up, people realizing that get something for somebody before their contract expires.
Yeah.
Is JJ. But Howie always seems like he's a little ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
He's a little ahead of
the trades in NFL and even the NBA have actually gotten better than Major League Baseball trades, because so many teams would rather just wait till control, right? Or they don't want to trade for a player on the final year of their deal. They want to wait till free agency. Why should I trade all these players when I can maybe just get them in free agency? I mean, that's kind of been the way baseball has sort of changed. And now NFL and NBA trades are going left and right. It's great.
I got to tell you, I hate the NBA for trades.
I love it, dude.
Absolutely hate it. Because the NBA.
Give me all the slop I can get.
But you need an abacus.
Yes.
To sit there and go, oh, to do an NBA trade, you have to go, well, let's try to, pull it out.
Well, you're not the one doing the trade, man. Daryl Morey's the one doing the trades.
I like it when you're able to just say, okay, let's make a trade. And that's the one thing I think the NBA does very poorly. They got to come up with a better one.
Dude, I don't think anyone's complaining.
Yeah, I think
every NBA trade deadline has been more exciting than MLB trade deadlines.
No,
nowadays.
But you can't, as a fan, you cannot, with great confidence, formulate a legitimate trade.
Dude, I see people on the ESPN trade machine.
I was just going to say.
That's my entire timeline.
No, but you have to sit and use the trade machine to try to come up with
People like to play armchair GM.
If I could delete one website off the face that isn't like a relative's Facebook page,
the trade machine?
Be the NBA trade machine.
It's so much fun, man. It's a blast. All right, so our question today is, what makes the Eagles such a successful franchise? I know we have some texts coming in on this, Connor. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And then we're going to start talking about what makes the Phillies such a successful franchise, because I want to try to open this up to the other teams as well. But what do we got on the Eagles, Connor?
So this is very interesting. Playing devil's advocate is what this texter is saying.
Okay.
But maybe if Howie wasn't so heavy-handed, Doug Peterson stays, they actually win another Super Bowl. Maybe chaos doesn't ensue. Who knows? We'll never know. But is there a downside to Howie Roseman's heavy-handedness?
All right,
like
so
I
think there was a downside, because after they won the Super Bowl, I thought he became smartest man in the room. Jalen Reagor over Justin Jefferson, which his scouts vehemently disagree with him. It has been reported about, right? I remember there was the story in The Athletic that talked about how Howie Roseman manipulates everything. He's the one that manipulates what the media is saying. Like, it got a bit much. And then he settled down. I think he stopped overthinking things. And I think he just focused on getting best players and not best measurables.
Okay.
Right? And so I think at a time his heavy-handedness was a problem, but I don't think it's a problem anymore. But I will say this to the texter. Did we get the texter's name? I'm sorry, Connor.
No name on that text.
All right. I don't think it's Howie Roseman's fault that Carson Wentz lost his damn mind.
I would agree there. No, it's the truth.
When Nick Foles wins the Super Bowl, it's a very, very hard thing to overcome when everybody's talking about BDN, right? The savior, Saint Nick. And then Carson Wentz gets hurt again, and then Nick Foles almost does it a second time. I don't think that's Howie's fault, man.
No, it's not his fault, but there's one thing here, though. Is one of the things I think that is great is about adaptability and, again, self-awareness. Howie Roseman, maybe more than any executive that I could think of in Philadelphia, most of them that have even had success, most of them don't go out like Pat Gillick, where you just hand the keys to somebody and it's the end of your career.
Right.
they usually have a crash and burn moment.
Yeah.
They have the success, and then they crash and burn. Howie Roseman pulled the plane out of a nosedive.
Yes.
And also changed his behaviors and adapted. I got to tell you, it's like I admire him more because of that stuff. I admire him because he seems to be able to handle these things a lot better than a lot of
I don't
players.
think you can question his heavy hand. He does have a heavy hand.
Oh, he does.
I don't think you can question it right now. He has just done a tremendous job.
Worked.
And every time we have questioned one of his decisions, we've usually been wrong, except for the defense last year. I think everyone realized that there were going to be issues over the middle of the field last year. And to your point, the cornerbacks at times were a major issue, especially when Darius Slay got hurt.
I didn't understand. That's one thing that shocked me last year is that how understands. I always talk about it, best practices. Sometimes they'll get grief from people about it. I believe the best businesses in the world study best practices and say, well, what do the winning teams, winning organizations, winning companies do? And what the Eagles did last year by re-signing Slay and Bradbury to me was just so counter.
Yeah. And
Best practice.
But you know what he did?
He
said,
adapted.
He said, my bad.
Yep.
Quinyon
Yep.
Mitchell, come on down.
Let's fix it up.
22nd overall pick. All right, we'll get to more texts because I know people want to chime in about the Kenneth Gainwell comments. We'll play that again coming up at 7:47, our next segment. But I do want to
Not a second later.
Not a second later. I want to open up this Phillies conversation because we've talked about what makes the Eagles such a successful franchise. I'll now ask the question, what makes the Phillies such a successful franchise? And I think it starts with ownership. It starts with ownership. I mean, they paid for Bryce Harper, Nick Castellanos, Kyle Schwarber, Zach Wheeler, Aaron Nola. Like, it starts up top.
Kinda.
All right.
Like,
Mr.
yes,
Baseball.
Yes, you're right. But I think that Bryce Harper does so much heavy lifting compared to almost every other player in baseball. Like, I do. We talk about how he wants to play GM and he wants his guys and everything like that. And yes, it's original credit to John Middleton for shelling out the money to bring in probably the biggest free agent signing, in Phillies history?
Yeah, well, Pete Rose.
Pete Rose.
But the thing is, though,
yeah, you're
a lot
right.
of people
Okay.
don't even remember that.
Top two. This millennium. But
Correct.
Jim Tomei was pretty good. Hall of Fame.
All right,
Literally
all right.
HOF.
all right, I want Bryce Harper future HOF. My point is, you bring in Bryce Harper, but then all these other guys are not here because of John Middleton. They are kind of, but they're mostly here because of Harper. In my mind.
Because he brought them over.
And the paycheck.
But the paycheck, it starts with Middleton. Again, we celebrate Jeffrey Lurie today for being willing to pay a lot of these guys up front with the signing bonuses and
Yes.
the roster the reconstructions, right, of the cap and Lane Johnson. How many times has Lane Johnson restructured his contract? Like 1,000,000 times. And
Yeah, for
that's because
upfront
of
cash, I'll take it.
But the Dodgers are willing to pay guys. The
Yes.
Yankees are willing to pay guys.
Correct.
There are other franchises that are willing to pay.
But there are franchises that aren't. Look at the
That's
Miami.
true.
Look at the Miami Marlins, who you're about to have a series with.
Not even worth the conversation. Because you're right. There are some really cheap organizations. My point is, those guys could be other places, but they want to play with Bryce.
Yeah, and so Bryce Harper's a part of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it starts with Middleton,
Okay.
but Bryce Harper's
I think
maybe number two.
I think it's the house that Middleton built. They want to come play here. Bryce Harper being here is just part of the bonus.
Yeah,
I think it's that. I think it's that they've created an ownership that, it's a
And I'm
franchise
not trying to
that
take
is
away.
nothing.
Like,
No, I
John
know you're
Middleton's
not. I
a
know you're
huge
not.
part. But, maybe I'm overrating the Bryce Harper effect.
No, I don't think you're overrating it
No.
because he's friends with JT Realmuto. He's friends with Trey Turner. He played with Nick Castellanos when he was younger, right?
Yeah.
Like all these guys, I'm sure he had a heavy influence on them coming here. But I think the influence of, how much do you want? Okay, yeah, let me sign that check for you. That starts with Middleton, man, and that should be celebrated. I mean, that's a guy that I think people are starting to give a lot of credit to, but I mean, remember the stupid money?
Yeah,
like
but dude-
that started everything.
Well, I've heard, though, with John Middleton, too, I've heard the stories where Middleton studied Laurie. They became friends. They become friends.
That
and
probably helps.
There's a little friendly competition.
Wow, they're having a good competition right now for
Right.
the city of Philadelphia. But something to remember, Trey Turner left money on the table from the Padres. Aaron Nola left money on the table in free agency. Like, it's not just they're getting paid the most. It's also like they want to play here. And credit goes to Middleton,
I don't know
too,
if
but-
Aaron Nola.
Well,
I don't know if Aaron Nola stayed because of Bryce.
Well, the one thing
Well, I'm
is,
not just saying Bryce, but
Aaron-
I'm saying the culture.
Aaron Nola could have been a Brave,
yeah, it could have been.
but he didn't get the Braves weren't going the amount of years the Phillies went.
Right.
But the Braves tried to poach Aaron Nola, and they just wouldn't give the years. As far as who else stays and goes, it's there's a lot to be said about an owner just willing to stroke the paychecks.
Yeah, but here's the thing: there are a million answers for the Eagles right now. There's probably a million answers that you can come up with the Phillies. Like we haven't even talked about Dombrowski yet,
who I am a huge fan of.
What did we complain about three years ago? What was the worst thing about the Phillies 3 or 4 years ago?
Matt Klentak, baby.
Yes. But what was he really bad at evaluating?
Drafting. Minor league talent.
And the bullpen.
Oh, yeah. Well.
Oh, yes.
I mean.
Now you have got, and it's not rocket science. Hey, let's get guys that throw 100 from both, left and right side, right? But the Phillies didn't do that. They had Pat Neshek was on this team twice. He threw like 75 miles per hour and couldn't pitch back-to-back days. He threw 75 miles an hour, whereas Dave Dombrowski goes, yeah, that's stupid. I'm going to bring in guys that just throw heat.
Right.
And I don't know if other GMs would be doing that.
Well, I mean, the way they've built a bullpen, the way that he's done that, or in the way he stayed committed to it. And not everyone's been a home run.
No.
But he's committed to a philosophy and everything, and it has really helped him.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, real quick, Bryce Harper in his last 3 games.
Yes.
This guy's just been tremendous. He's 6 for 11. He's also walked once. And Connor said this earlier in the show, and I'll remind the people what Connor said. He's hit a home run in 3 straight games now, right? Those home runs have turned into 10 runs batted in. A 3-run shot, and then yesterday's grand slam.
It's wild.
He is on an absolute heater right now.
And his yesterday morning, I said to you, Jeff Kerr from CBS Sports had it. His walk rate going into last night's game was the highest in Major League Baseball for any player of 100 at-bats.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
I mean, he's so not only now as he now, tearing it up. I think he's leading the team in home runs, right? Him and Schwarber, both 9, I think.
Probably.
Yeah, he either has 8 or 9.
But I mean, it's been Alec Boehm's world. We've just been living in.
But it's amazing with Harper. I mean, he
hasn't heated up yet.
He hasn't even. You're right. Like he is heating. Like the burner just got turned on.
Yes.
Right. And now, man.
There's good. And Bryce, save a few for today, please.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
I may have put it in my my same game parlay with Bet Parks.
See, John and I are the same. When you
gotta go to a game.
If you go to a game, you have an SGP because it's something more to watch
but
when
I
you're there.
only want one.
Yeah,
I'm saving my money for the fastball threes. Come on.
Well, if you win an SGP, you can buy 2 fastball freezes,
That's
Connor.
true.
I want to see this thing.
Coming up next, we will replay the Kenneth Gainwell audio because I know a lot of people want to chime in on the text line about this. You can call in as well at 610-632-0975. Kenneth Gainwell opened up about the issues for the Eagles last year. Do you have any concerns that it might carry over? It's Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic. Salciunas. I gotta tell you, man, as much as this little rascal of a son is that I have, he just finds a way to pull at the heartstrings, man. So, so last night, John got inducted into the Temple Hall of Fame. Again, congratulations. It was a freaking awesome night last night.
Thank you guys for being there.
Yeah, it was, and thank you for inviting us.
Yes,
it was an honor for us to be. He even gave us a shout out. He said table 18.
Yeah, we didn't get
guys,
names, but we got table numbers.
Well, you guys were really going nuts.
I got a Kincade and Salciunas.
Kincade and Salciunas.
Yeah, so I my last name was mentioned.
Connor.
That's all right.
But table 18 was mentioned.
I think
during
the waitresses were all meeting Connor last night.
Yes, they were.
No comment.
Yes, they
Let's
were.
move on.
But I get home, and the second I get home, Cooper wakes up. It was 10:30. It's not even like.
And you walked in, and he knew you were there.
No, he's not feeling well again.
Okay.
Believe it or not,
right.
a kid that goes to daycare sick every freaking 5 seconds. So last night, I had a lot of fun at the.
Yes, we
at
did.
the event yesterday.
You had more fun than I did.
I've been up since 2:45 this morning. 2:45 this morning. This kid drives me nuts. But I just called Christy to check in, see how they're doing. And he goes, "See Daddy."
Oh.
And he wants to FaceTime, so
There
I
it is.
FaceTime. And I see the big smile ear to ear. And I go, "You son of a..."
There he is. There he is.
I love you, even though I'm running on like 2 hours of sleep again. All right, so we would open up the text line and the phone line at 610-632-0975 in response to what Kenneth Gainwell had to say yesterday. Kenny G was on a podcast, and he was talking about what went wrong with the Eagles last year. Take a listen.
What do you think it was that caused that sudden change?
I think it was a connection piece. I say teams like the Chiefs, bro, are like well connected upstairs and downstairs. Front office and the locker room. Like everybody's connected. When you got that connection piece, bro, everything just click. When you got guys that's not talking to each other, then you never know what's going on. So like if we all sit down and talk to each other and find out what's going on, or we find out what we need to do on the field to get this thing going, then we'll be good. Because if we play real hard in the beginning of the season, we need to continue to play hard at the end of the season, because at the end of the season would really matter. That would really matter, because when we get to the playoffs, if we're not playing good and we still got our head down because we just lost 5 games, what you think we're going to do in the playoffs?
So clearly there were issues inside the locker room. Morale was low because he's talking about players playing with their heads down. He's talking about the lack of connection that teams like the Chiefs do have, right? There's connection between player to player, player to coach, player to front office.
Play hard bothered me.
Yeah, play hard
That
was
bothered me.
Yeah.
Hearing that.
Dude, Fletcher Cox said something last year after the Seahawks. So remember, they lost to the Niners and the Cowboys, embarrassed in both games, and then the Seattle game.
That Monday night game that was a Sunday night game that got flexed.
Yep. And Fletcher Cox, I remember playing it on the midday show with Ray, when Ray was producing me in middays. Fletcher Cox said the team is playing scared. He said it out publicly.
He did say
the
that.
team is playing scared. And I remember going, whoa, geez, like that's like not something you want to hear. And I did not think, when I heard him say that, I remember going on the air the next day saying this team is playing like dead man walking. And then I heard him say that. I didn't think that they were going to flip things around. I didn't think a switch was going to be flipped.
See, now, here's where I was a fool. After the Seattle game, I said, oh, wait a minute here. Okay, they're coming home.
They're going to play the Giants.
And they're going to play the Giants twice. They're going to play the Cardinals. This thing's going to be just fine.
Yeah, until James Conner ran for 675 yards against you.
I'll never forget. I mean, it was, okay, things are going to be just fine. They'll work out.
So I know
They weren't fine.
people are chiming in on the text line about what Kenneth Gainwell had to say. Connor, is that correct?
That is correct.
All right, what do we got?
You're
Are they
right.
ripping them or not?
Well, Frank from Philly checks in and says, calm down, guys. Kenneth Gainwell is being honest with us. We wanted the answers. Now he comes out and says what happened.
I'm not ripping
Nobody's
him.
I think
ripping
this was from earlier when we were talking about like Kenneth Gainwell and Paul Reed talking and stuff like that. He was in the locker room. He's seen what happened. I'm glad someone spoke up. And he's right about the beginning of the year. They played balls to the wall, but once they lost, they all put their head down, including team leader Jalen Hurts.
And that's when Lane Johnson said, what was Super Bowl weekend, he said, on Dan Patrick, that
It was Super Bowl week.
the 49ers took their hearts. And that's how everything spiraled out of control. One loss. Their second loss of the season.
He was honest about it, though.
So I'm not ripping Kenneth Gainwell, but I understand where Andrew in Phoenixville is going to go with this. What's up, Andrew?
Good morning, gentlemen. How are you?
Good, buddy.
What are your thoughts on Kenneth Gainwell?
Yeah, I actually just saw that last night. I called Tom and Kevin last night about that, and Kevin was like, yeah, he needs to slow his roll because he's not really going to be on this team much longer. I really don't believe he's going to be on this team this year coming up. But
I do.
He'll be on.
I do.
He's
on
going to be on the team.
With the breakdown in communication, that is my concern is going into this year. And I posed the question to Tom and Kevin last night, and I'll pose to you guys. Are you guys concerned about the communication breakdown possibly again this year? But with the new coordinators, offense and defense, I don't think that's going to be a case, but it very well could be.
I'm not.
The thing that I am worried about, and thanks for the call, Andrew. And again, it's what Brian Westbrook said the first day Bob Cooney hosted the Midday Show, that they better get off to a hot start because if they don't, people will start looking at Nick Sirianni and going, oh, wait, you were here again. You were here last year when things fell apart. Why is this happening again? They better get off to a hot start.
Does this message sound like what Britton Covey said on Radio Row? Similar?
Similar.
Remember
what
Britton
did he
Covey's
say
comments?
again?
He had the same type of comments about, sort of like we sort of fell apart there with communication. And I will not, I am not reporting anything, but I will tell you that numerous people have told me Britton Covey was told to shut his mouth.
So will Kenneth Gainwell be told to shut his mouth as well?
I'm just going to tell you that Britton Covey was because Britton Covey was then backtracking.
Yeah.
Then he was like,
yeah, remember he was on social media, like debating people.
Like, what's going on? Because he did that. He sat down with Zach Gelb.
Yeah, that's right.
And he was then backtracking and from what I was told, he was backtracking because other people said to him, shut your mouth. You're not the messenger of this.
Well, dude, I told you earlier, even though I love that Howie Roseman is very heavy-handed. He manipulates the media. He wants things out a specific way. I wouldn't be surprised if he himself went up to Britton Covey and said, yo, dude, what are you doing?
Why are you doing an interview?
But nobody's ripping Gainwell for look, the Paul Reed thing, it's always the backups that have to open up their mouths. But no, he's the first person that has actually opened up and said something. We're going to ask Shefty about this coming your way next. Adam Schefter, it's a Wednesday. He'll join us coming your way next right at 8 o'clock. What also went wrong with the Eagles last year, because this is the first player that's really opened up. And also, the fun, positive things. What makes the Eagles such a successful organization? He's been covering this team for a long time as well. We'll find out what makes this Eagles team such a good franchise. It's Kincade and Salciunas. Adam Schefter joins us next right here, 97.5 The Fanatic. morning, which means we get to go to the Comcast Business Hotline, where every day in business is a big day. Let Comcast Business get you ready for what's next. He's brought to us by Landis Block. Create your very own jaw-dropping backyard paradise.
Love those
online at
folks.
landisbc.com. Absolutely. That, of course, is the great Adam Schefter. Shefty, good morning.
Good morning, guys, and John, congratulations on your induction into the Temple Hall of Fame.
Wow, you've made national media.
Thank you, buddy. That is greatly appreciated. And I would, but just quickly, I was thinking of you Monday too at Chris Mortenson's celebration of life, because if there was somebody who deserved a celebration of their life, it was the Great Mort Report, and I know how fondly he thought of you, and I can only imagine. I wish I could have been there.
Thank you. There were a lot of people that made the trip to Northwest Arkansas. I think it was Mort's little last joke on us.
Yes.
To get us all to travel there, have our connection flights out canceled. It was. I guarantee he really enjoyed that. You know, everybody's got to come to Arkansas. You're stuck in Arkansas. Can't get out of Arkansas. And it was a nice day. It was nice to be with his family. It was nice to step into Mort's world.
Sure.
You know, so many of us had never been there before. Like, you know, you're not going to Arkansas, and he lived on a horse farm in Arkansas. You know, he and his wife, Mickey, loved that. His son, Alex, played quarterback at Arkansas, which is why they settled there. And as I did that trip, I thought to myself, I cannot believe that for some 20 years or so, he would make this trip from here to Bristol every week. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Honestly, like, I love him. I admire him. I have an even higher degree of respect for all his travel for all he did.
There you go.
All the way from Arkansas to Bristol. Incredible. Shefty, today we're getting into a conversation about the Eagles since the turn of the century, since 2000, and how a lot of people could make the case that they have been one of the more successful franchises in the NFL. Obviously, it's only been one Super Bowl, not a dynasty like Kansas City has had. Obviously, the dynasty that we saw with New England, with Brady and Belichick. But the Eagles have been one of the more consistent, successful franchises since 2000. And we're trying to figure out why. What is it that the Eagles do, in your mind, that makes them such a successful franchise?
Well, first of all, you talk about the success, and I'm not just saying this. They were truly one win away from you talking about them as a dynasty and an even different tier. Had they beat the Chiefs in that Super Bowl, which they very easily could have done, I don't need to remind anybody, in Philadelphia, everybody remembers what happened that day very, very well. But had they won that game, you'd be looking this franchise in an even more exalted light than you already do. But there are not many teams. If you go back and count up the division titles and the playoff wins and all that, they're going to be, I guarantee they're going to be in the top 5 of this century. They're just going to be. New England will be there. Kansas City will be there on the strength of what it's done recently, but Philadelphia is going to be there. Victory, everything, by every metric. And, you know, I think when it comes to that, it starts at the top with ownership. It just does. You know, there are certain very strong owners who are willing to do what it takes to spend, and I certainly include Jeffrey Lurie in that group. And then there have been some, you know, strong coaching staffs, some strong front offices making the right decisions. And, you know, I just think now, today, you know, Howie Roseman is such a strong presence in that organization and lives, eats, and breathes it, like is consumed by it. And it matters so much to him what they're doing. So that, I think, permeates so much of what they do and why they seem to consistently win in the offseason.
I wonder, though, Adam, why more organizations don't copy some of the best practices that the Eagles do. Or, from someone who's more entrenched in it, do they attempt to and they just don't do it as well?
Well, what do you want them to copy?
Like the idea that, like, you have an owner that is willing to convert so much salary money into signing bonuses that allow Howie to manipulate the cap. Why wouldn't a guy like Jerry Jones, who has a $4.8 billion franchise, not be willing to do more of that to relieve his cap situation?
Again, it's just not the way that some owners think and operate. They think and operate differently. And each owner has a different willingness to spend cash and to give cash each year. And that has not been an issue with Jeffrey Lurie. It just hasn't been. That's why I started with him, because it does start there, and it allows you to do certain things and have certain advantages when other teams aren't doing those types of things. And so, again, usually great owners have well-run franchises. There's a correlation there. There's a connection, and it's not accidental. And I think that Mr. Lurie does deserve a lot of credit for that.
Now, we talk about the good, and then we'll sort of ease our way into the not so good. Kenneth Gainwell, one of the running backs on the Eagles roster, was on a podcast earlier this week, and he was probably the first player to really open up about what happened last season for the Eagles. He talked about the maybe lack of connection that other teams may have between player to player, player to coach, player to front office. It's really the first player that's really opened up. I'm still trying to figure out what the heck happened. I don't think his answer tells us everything that happened. But, Adam, was there – I know we've asked you this a few times, but I still can't sit here and say linebacker play is the reason why they went from 10-1 to 11-6. Do you think more players will start to open up soon about the issues the Eagles had last year?
No. I mean, first of all, I don't know specifically you're saying Kenneth Gainwell opened up about it, but I still didn't hear you say, Andrew, a reason that he listed as to what it was, a connection between the players. Is that what he's saying?
He said there was the connection that other teams like Kansas City doesn't have.
Top to bottom.
Top to bottom. And then he started talking about how guys were playing with their heads down after a couple of losses, and that carried into the playoffs. And I just wonder, was there some sort of, I don't know, lack of morale in the locker room that for some reason nobody could try to get an answer and fix?
Yeah, I didn't hear it. Was he implying top down, like top is?
He said top to bottom.
If you'd like, we could play for you right now, Adam, if you would like to listen.
Top to bottom. I assume, I didn't hear it, that when you talk about the top is Jalen Hurts because he's the quarterback, he's the highest paid guy. So is he implying that Jalen Hurts wasn't connected? Is that my question? I didn't hear it. I don't know.
Here, we'll play it for you. It's only about 30 seconds long, so we'll play it for you. Here was Kenneth Gainwell.
What do you think it was that caused that sudden change?
I think it was a connection piece. I say teams like the Chiefs, bro, are like well connected upstairs and downstairs, front office and the locker room. Like everybody's connected. When you got that connection piece, bro, everything just click. When you got guys that's not talking to each other, then, you never know what's going on, So, like, if we all sit down and talk to each other and find out what's going on, or we find out what we need to do on the field to, get this thing going, then, we'll be good. Because if we play real hard in the beginning of the season, we need to continue to play hard at the end of the season. Because at the end of the season, what really matter. That would really matter. Because when we get to the playoffs, we're not playing good, and we still got our head down because we just lost 5 games. What you think we're going to do in the playoffs?
Told you Wednesdays.
When you go, when you hear that, you go, you're talking about a guy who says when guys stop talking to each other. That's a weird thing. That's a weird thing to hear.
Yeah, again, if it were my podcast, I would have had a lot of follow-up questions. What do you mean? Expand upon that connection. I don't know what he means.
Right.
Exactly. Okay.
Oh, did we lose Shefty?
I think we just lost him.
We may have lost Shefty.
I think we lost him on that one.
Adam, are you there?
No, we lost him. We lost him there. We'll try to get him back.
Well, here we'll
try to get him back.
You're good. You there?
You hear me now?
Yeah, we got you now.
We lost you for a second. So you're not reading too much into that, or you would like to follow up if you could.
Yeah, I'd like to follow up and hear more about it. And again, when a team's not winning, it's hard to. They're never going to feel connected overly. Like that's how it is. Like I always love that. The leadership question. Well, this team has good leadership. But when they're 15-2, yeah, everything when you're winning is going. The coaches make all the right calls. The players make everything's great. Everything smells great. When it doesn't go that way, people are angry. People are pissed off. Nobody's connected. It's not working. It's easy to say. It doesn't mean much to me. It just doesn't. Like, they had a terrible finish. Everybody was pissed off about it. Nobody's happy. Nobody feels connected. Nothing's working. But why? Why? We still haven't answered that. And, you're going to wonder for a long time about that. I don't know that it'll ever be answered. Maybe it will. Maybe it'll come out at some point. But there's that doesn't tell me anything. No disrespect, but when you're not winning, there's a lot of things that are wrong. And it's easy to just say that. So, I don't know. It was a year that went south real quick. And again, I just come back to that one game against the 49ers where they got hammered, and it just seems like the team fell apart from that point on. It seems like they were exposed that day. It seemed like they never recovered from that day. It seems like they were beaten down that day, and it just got away from them. And once the snowball started rolling down the mountain, it was like a runaway snowball.
So how important is a hot start for Nick Sirianni in this upcoming season?
Well, for the exact reasons that you don't want it to go the other way. I always feel like the start of the season for everybody is critically important. Like when you roll out of the gate strong, to me, your chances of succeeding that year go up dramatically. Whether that's Nick Sirianni or Mike McCarthy or Brian Daboll or any team in that, it doesn't matter. You want to start strong because you feel like you're playing with the lead. There's nothing worse than starting the season 1-3, 2-4. You feel like you're playing catch-up all year, and it just takes so much out of the guys to get back to where you're trying to get to. It just inevitably is not great. So, it's critical for them, but it's critical for everybody.
So schedule release next Wednesday, pushed back a week. It appears next Wednesday night?
That's correct.
So next Wednesday, the 15th, we get to
That's correct.
So we'll be previewing that. I expect you to slip us a leak or two next Wednesday morning. Is that too much to ask?
You know what? This thing, it comes out in drips and drabs anyway. Like, it's not like it's a big deal. Like
It is a big deal. I obsess on it.
It is.
I obsess on
We
it.
got to do W's and L's.
It is a big deal, but my point to you is we know everybody's playing. We just don't know when it is. The schedule, it's really become the digital Super Bowl for every team to have its, social media team come up with a great, creative schedule release kind of thing.
Yes.
And that's kind of how it works. And so that's what it'll be next Wednesday. And yes, everybody makes a big deal of it. It is a big deal, but my point is, from a news value standpoint, it's not a big deal. It is a big deal because people are waiting to book their trips and
Yes.
okay, yeah, I want to go here this weekend and I want to avoid that. When's my team have a bye? Who do we open with? Who do we get? I got it. I love that. Of course, we all do. News value? No. There's not a lot of new. We know what the games are. We just don't know when they are.
Well, one or two, you can peek in one or two little leaks for the show next week would be really good for social media.
Yeah, just let us know when they're playing New Orleans. That's,
That's the one we're really targeting.
That's
New
the one
Orleans
we're looking
trip.
for, Shefty.
Why is that? Why is that?
Like you just said,
Little
book your
road trip.
trips.
Little book the road trip.
Yeah, man.
Down to New Orleans.
That's where you want to go, New Orleans.
Yes, absolutely. Are you kidding me? You don't want to go to L.A. Like, I mean, it's the game. You don't want to go to L.A. You don't want to go. I mean, like on the road schedule this year, that's the game, New Orleans, and plus it's fantastic. Now you're not as big a night owl, and I'm not.
No.
We're not either. But the French Quarter has a certain flair to it.
Yeah, well, the Super Bowl is going to be there. I'll have all the time in New Orleans that I want and need in February.
So that means we'll go twice.
We'll go twice.
We'll go
then.
twice
That's
when
fine.
the Eagles get to the Super Bowl this year. Shefty, listen, man, we appreciate it as
Thanks,
always.
Adam.
You enjoy whatever little time you have because I know it slows down a little bit for you now post-draft. So you enjoy your time off and enjoy the schedule release next week.
Thanks, Adam.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
There he is, Adam
There you go.
Schefter on the Comcast Business Hotline. Every day in business is a big day. Let Comcast Business get you ready for what's next. And, of course, he's brought to us by Landis Block. Create your very own jaw-dropping backyard paradise online at landisbc.com. I wonder if he ever talks to Kenneth Gainwell now.
I don't know if he does.
He was saying there was a lot of questions that he would like to have followed up on.
Yeah, I think that there's something to be. So there's more to it that we're still never going to get.
Right.
But it is fun. The one thing that I missed from earlier, though, was the prominence of when guys stop talking to each other. That's disturbing.
Yeah.
That's disturbing.
He mentioned the connection, lack of connection. There was a lack of connection in that locker room last year, which is why I keep on saying you did not go from 10-1 to 11-6 because your linebackers sucked. They weren't good.
And it was clear, and Joe Santoliquito wrote a really good piece about it.
He did, and a lot of it was about Jalen.
And remember, he got ripped for the Carson Wentz piece, which ended up being true. And then he got ripped last year for that too. There's things you got to do,
and don't forget
as the franchise quarterback,
you got to talk Shefty sometimes.
Oh no, you got to.
He mentioned Hurts.
He did. Oh, I think there's something to it there. The one thing that was ridiculous was what, and I love you, Craig. With Craig Carton though, what he was going. Well, there's something, and it's the thing that like two men could never deal with. He got into clickbait bull crap.
Yeah, it was bad.
That was so false and so ridiculous.
No, I think it was just maybe Jalen Hurts was being pulled 10 different ways because of endorsements and everything, and they said it was hard to get with Jalen Hurts. Right. And that might have been it. All right, normally at 8:05, but Adam Schefter, trumps today's headlines with Connor Thomas.
Today's headlines with Connor Thomas.
Sorry, Connor.
That's all right. Speaking of clickbait bullcrap, here's today's headlines. And we're going to start with something from yesterday's Phillies game. I know we were a little bit busy, but a guy on the mound did pretty darn well.
Well, Christopher Sanchez, as John alluded to, is back out there for the Phils as we go to the top of the 7th inning.
I mean, it's tough to take him out.
I would agree, looking at his pitch count, too.
And, if you're the Blue Jays, you hope they take him out. They haven't had many great swings against Christopher tonight.
He had a great outing yesterday.
Now, here's what I'm not saying. I'm not saying like, oh, I told you so. This is why the Phillies. No, one outing does not do that. Here's my question. What do you need to see from Sanchez to get you to the point where you say they made the right decision?
I mean, look, if he can go out there and give you a quality start every single time as the fifth man in your rotation, right? The old quality start of 6 innings, 3 earned runs or less. I would take that on my fifth starter every single day of the week.
If I could get that, if I can honestly get that, what, at 3 out of 5?
Yeah.
From your fifth starter?
Yeah. And look, I didn't expect Turnbull to keep pitching at the rate that he's pitching at. It just sucks that he got rewarded with the demotion.
I know.
And all I'm saying is he didn't allow an earned run yesterday.
That's true.
Sanchez did allow 1.
Wow, 2 innings versus 7 innings.
I'm joking. But no, it was a great outing for Sanchez yesterday.
It was.
All right, we're moving on to something that wasn't a great outing. We had a no-hitter watch going on. This is one of the weirdest things I've ever heard. Before the Dodgers matchup with the Marlins, we had some no-hitter alert go off, and then, well, you can hear.
Grant Ensminger.
Yeah, you can hear how the game started.
Don't take this the wrong way, but we are already a no-hitter alert. Yoshinobu Yamamoto, before he throws a single pitch tonight against the Marlins, we have a no-hitter alert. Okay. Enjoy what could be a no-hitter from Yamamoto.
Jazz swing your first pitch.
Right here on MLB Network.
Yamamoto comes home, and off we go. And the aggressive Marlins get a first pitch swing and a high fly ball and a home run for Jazz Chisholm on the first pitch.
That was so terrible.
Why would you do that?
Because Grant Ensminger is that's him.
Well, unless
it's very on brand for him.
Or a producer told him to say it.
No,
I
think they coordinate that.
I just don't get why. Like, seriously, why?
Listen, it's dumb, right? But if you could create that moment, if you know he's going to go yard first pitch,
all right,
it's almost better that they said that.
My old program director, before you were here, but I know you know Matt Nahagi.
I do know Matt. Talented guy.
If you ever did something probably not smart, Matt would ask you, what was the upside?
Right.
Like, if you put out a tweet ripping something, what was the upside to the tweet? A couple of clicks, a couple of likes here and there. What was the upside for Greg Amsinger to say we have a no-hitter alert before the first pitch of a game?
I think he's just trying to be smug and funny. It's sort of on brand. And then you look, it just was stupid. It was just stupid.
Look, Yamamoto's settled down, obviously, since his first start where he pitched a whole inning. But, like, it's not like he hasn't been electric yet for you to.
I think it was more mocking the Marlins.
Yeah.
That it was what it was about.
And then Jazz goes out there, bam, home run.
All right, last one here. A little bit of a replay of something you guys were talking about with the Eagles.
What makes this Eagles such a successful franchise? Over the course of 24 years, since the turn of the century, the Eagles have always been considered one of the best franchises.
And you're not wrong. But here's one thing I want to draw your attention to.
What's the but?
Since 2004, 20 years. Not a single repeat champion in the NFC East.
Okay.
So we talk about consistent greatness, but are we overstating it? I'm playing devil's advocate here because I agree with you, but are we overstating it?
I will say this. Since 2004, I can't say. They have been the best franchise in the NFC East, even though the Giants won 2 Super Bowls during that time.
Yeah.
But consistency. I mean, the Giants really have done nothing in the last 5 years.
Okay.
I get what you're saying, Connor. It's a great point.
And I agree, but I'm just like, when you look at the record in the division, I know the division isn't everything, but something to consider.
I don't think we're overstating it.
All right, so we're going to continue this conversation. I want to know why are the Eagles one of the more successful franchises in the NFL? What makes them so successful? What is it that they do that makes them successful? We asked Shefty about it, and Shefty said it starts with ownership. It starts with Jeffrey Lurie, and then it goes on down from there. Also, we're talking about the Phillies, who win another game last night, an electric game last night. Bryce Harper goes yard with a grand slam, 3 home runs in 3 straight games. Ricky Batalico from The Best Show Ever will be joining us coming up next at 8:30 to talk more about it. It's Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic. Salciunas. We have been talking a lot of Eagles, but also a lot of Phillies because the Phillies are red hot right now with another great win yesterday against the Blue Jays. They look to sweep the 2-game series this afternoon, in which we will be in attendance for. Johnny, can't wait.
I cannot wait.
Hang out with a couple of the listeners that won the tickets yesterday. But we want to talk more about the Phillies, and, you know, it's nice to be able to just turn to somebody that works in the building. And
that is nice.
He knows a thing or two about baseball.
I've watched him on TV. I think he's really good.
I think he's all right.
He's good in the radio, too. I mean, I'm not saying anything.
He is tremendous. And on the Comcast Business Hotline, we go to one Ricky Batalico. Ricky, good morning.
Good morning.
Dude, the Phillies are scorching hot right now, and we were talking about this earlier. Bryce Harper, the burner just got turned on. It's not even like he's red hot right now. The burner just got turned on, and that burner's led to 3 straight games with a home run.
It's unbelievable, isn't it? Trey Turner goes down, and Harper says, I guess I better turn it up a notch and kick it in gear. I mean, that's what this – if you look at how they're built, they're kind of built for this. Like, if somebody goes down – they have, 4 or 5 superstars on the team. Somebody should be able to turn it up a notch. Harper said, you know what, I guess it's my turn. I'm going to start hitting home runs left and right. It's a beautiful thing. What's he have, 6, 8, 12, 10 RBIs in 3 games?
Yep.
I mean, wow.
Dude, they scored 10 runs last night with a lineup of Schwarber, Merrifield, Harper, Castellanos, Marsh, Stott, Edmundo Sosa, Cody Clemens, Garrett Stubbs. They scored 10 runs last night.
How about Cody Clemens, for crying out loud?
Yep.
Come on, man. This guy comes up twice. He's got 2 home runs. I mean, it seems like everything's just going right for them right now. And I know a lot of people will say, well, who have they played? Well, this is the schedule they're handed them. And you know what? You very well could have let your guard down against the White Sox and only taken 2 out of 3. Or, you know what? It's hard to, quote, unquote, sweep a 4-game series, but they did that against the Giants. You know what? Yes, it's true that there's not a ton of great baseball teams around the league, but the Phillies are taking care of business. We always talk about what they should be on paper. We always say it. We talk about the Eagles that way, the Sixers, the Flyers, blah, blah, blah. What they should be on paper. Guess what? The paper is now coming to fruition in this team. Everything that you see on paper is now being played out on the field, and that's why they're so good, because they're going to all play to their numbers. And if that happens, this team's going to the World Series.
Ricky, there will be people that will say pump the brakes or you don't want a team to peak too early. But talk about getting out in front and what that does for a team's psyche when you pile up the wins early. Do you consider that always a positive, or could there be pitfalls?
I don't believe in the pitfall thing. We didn't see it with the Braves last year, did we?
No, they ran away with it.
Getting off to a good start is really, really good, because it gives you that little cushion of, if you do have a 3-game losing streak at some point, you're not going to panic. And I think that to me is a lot better off than, we got to scratch together wins to win a wild card. I think this team is. I said it before the season started. I thought they were going to win the division, but everybody poo-pooed that.
No, I didn't. You and I were brothers in arms on that one.
Well, but how many people were like, "You're out of your mind"?
Yes.
I mean, I just think this Phillies team. The one thing they have, obviously, the starting pitching has been ridiculous. I mean, let's face it, it's been ridiculous. You don't get 3 guys under a 2 ERA and sit there and go, oh, well, you know what, there's no luck involved. There is a little bit of luck involved on top of that. But when they were going, it wasn't like the Phillies offense was going off the walls. But now all of a sudden the Phillies offense, after Turner goes down, they start kicking it in gear. I mean, I just think there's more gears to this team. I mean, we haven't gotten to Schwarber Jr. yet.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot to look forward to in this team. And if you're sitting there saying, well, you know, it's just the beginning of the season. Every game, I hate to tell everybody, it's 162 games, but every game counts in the standings. So regardless of who you play, when you play, wins are always important.
Ricky, our main topic today was about the Eagles, and we were asking what makes the Eagles such a successful franchise. Because since the turn of the century, they have been one of the best teams. We had Adam Schefter on earlier today, And he said since the turn of the century, he would say they're top 5, if not one of the top 3 most successful franchises in the NFL. I want to ask you, what makes the Phillies such a successful franchise? Because in recent years, you've been to a World Series, an NLCS, and now this year you're the best team in baseball to date. What makes them so successful?
I'm going to start with Dave Dombrowski. Ever since he's gotten here, this team it's like he's building a Lego building. And he just keeps building up. And, I mean, right now he's got a skyscraper. So, I mean, this guy knows what he's doing. He has he's got a great baseball knowledge to him. I think, when you start there, he doesn't go on just analytics. I mean, we saw what happened when the Phillies go to analytics.
Oh, yeah.
That was garbage for how many years? 3-4 years. That was garbage. And now all of a sudden you got some guys in here that can play the game of baseball, that love the game of baseball. You hear Sirianni talking about culture all the time. This team, their locker room, that culture is something that you've never seen before. I mean, these guys actually like to go in and play, with the guys that are on that team. That doesn't happen all the time. Trust me, I've been on a lot of different teams. Never did we have 25 guys that liked each other. Never. I've never seen it before. And these guys just go out and play for themselves, which I think is absolutely special. The other thing is, and I give Dombrowski some credit for this too, you look around the league, the starting rotations, I would say 75% of the starting rotations in baseball are all throwers. They just throw hard. And now you look at the Phillies, you have one guy, and Wheeler's, 95, 96 now. He's not like 100 miles an hour.
Right.
But they all know how to pitch. That's something that is lost in baseball, and that I'm going to tell you right now, that's going to come back around. It's already started that all these throwers get hurt because bodies are not made to throw 102, 103 miles an hour.
Right.
And I'm telling you right now, pitching, guys that know how to pitch, will come back in this game big time.
I will tell you that the biggest bouquet I could throw your way, and I throw them occasionally, is you spotting from 2 years ago what Ranger Suarez was going to become. You have never moved off that, and you keep upping the ante, and then he keeps delivering. I'm fascinated as to all the things you saw about Ranger Suarez that you saw coming that continue to come to fruition.
Because I saw a guy, I don't like to use the word crafty, but, I mean, in general terms, that's what he is. He could locate his fastball with the best of them. I think we all agree with that. He's got a sinker that he could run in on right-handers' hands. And if you're a left-handed pitcher and you have a pitch that you could run in on a righty, those right-handers are absolutely screwed because he has a changeup that goes away from you. He has a curveball that he could throw on your back foot. So once you get down in the count, it's literally a guessing game. And even if you guess right, that doesn't mean you're going to hit that pitch. So, I mean, in my eyes, I saw Ranger as a guy that could use both sides of the plate. When you could do that, it's not as easy as it sounds because I could bring up pitchers that can't use both sides of the plate. He is a guy that could use both sides of the plate, and the sneaky part about him is that he can elevate a 92, 93-mile-an-hour fastball that could blow by you also because I think he's one of those guys that, I mean, I've never stood in the box against him, but I could see it in guys' swings. They never even get a good swing off his fastball, which tells me that ball's coming out of his hand. It might be 92, but it looks like 96, 97. So it's just one of those things where certain pitchers have that. Like you've heard the term, certain guys have heavy baseballs, guys that throw sinkers. You can't really square them up, and it feels heavy off of your bat. This guy's got just sneaky momentum, velocity, and when you could do that and you could use both sides of the plate, you're going to be a tough pitcher for a long period of time. And you saw that in him, and you saw the no fear. I think the no fear thing is what really kind of gets me, is that he doesn't care the situation. I've seen him with the bases loaded, 1 out, no panic. I mean, trust me, take a good look out there, watch other teams. You'll see guys get runners on base, and it's a flat fastball down the middle of the plate.
All right, last thing for you. We've got about a minute left, and I know this is a hard question to fit into a minute. What do you do with Sir Anthony, man? because you can't send him down.
No, you can't. Well, you could ask him to go down,
right,
and see if he'll take or you could IL him for 10 days. I mean, it's just one of those things where he's got to get his confidence back, and I don't know if it could be done at the big league level. That's the thing. He's still got the stuff. He's throwing 98 miles an hour. It's all about location, and you know what? Just forcing him into big league games, your adrenaline rush is taking over. It's hard for pitchers, relief pitchers, to work on mechanics because they might be needed every night.
Absolutely. Ricky, you're the
Thanks,
man.
Rick.
Listen, I know our relationship between you and I is busting balls all the time, but I do want to just say this, and we're not going to get too deep into it. Sorry with what you guys had to go through yesterday. I know that was a tough day for you guys, so you hang in there, all right?
Tough day.
Yep.
All right.
All right, Ricky.
Thank you,
Talk to
buddy.
later. There he is, Ricky Batalico on the Comcast Business Hotline. Thought a lot about them yesterday.
Yes.
It was a tough day. All right, we continue the conversation. I want to dive into this Sir Anthony thing because there's a pitcher. Alek Manoah, you know who I'm talking about?
Hey, I grew up right down the street from Manoah.
Dude, Alek Manoah is going through something that, I don't think it's ever going to be fixed. I want to ask Connor, Mr. Baseball. Will Sir Anthony get fixed, or are we watching another Manoah situation on our hands? Because Sir Anthony Dominguez is supposed to be a big part of this bullpen. It's Kincade and Salciunas right here, 97.5 The Fanatic. As you know, head to 975thefanatic.com to enter for a chance to win $2,000 from Mom in the Mother's Day Nationwide Contest, sponsored by Polites Florists. Make Mom's Mother's Day special with beautiful flowers from Polites Florists. Now with 3 locations to serve you, visit PolitesFlorist.com. Obviously, Mother's Day is this Sunday, so hurry up. If you haven't registered yet, do that now.
If you put it off this long, you're a bad son.
Just quickly jump on, man.
Come on, get on
quickly
it.
jump at 975thefanatic.com. It's pretty simple. And then while you do that, why don't you buy the Fanatic Deal of the Week?
Oh, this sounds good.
This week only, get the first 6 spots for your private tiki cruise from Pauhana. Pauhana Tiki Boat Tours for half off. Float on the Ocean City Bay on a private 26-foot cruise equipped with thatched roofs, club quality speakers, and bar stool seating. Get this exclusive offer while supplies last at 975thefanatic.com/deals.
Half off like my wardrobe will be when we go on the Tiki cruise.
On the Tiki cruise.
We're not going to be on the same cruise, bro.
By the way,
now
here's the deal. So a guy goes yesterday, Andrew Ellis gets in on it. He's like, oh, my God, no one goes out in a boat with a shirt on. What are you talking about, Kincade? And then I go and look at the Tiki cruise book. No. People go on the Tiki cruise, a cocktail cruise at night, and the majority of the pictures – people are in shirts.
Yeah, majority.
This is not rolling out on your boat.
But I'm
your
built
own private
different,
boat.
Johnny. I'm built different.
Yeah.
Look,
guess what?
You're
You are.
allowed to go shirtless on the boat.
I don't know.
I'm just not hanging out with Connor when he's shirtless on the boat.
This is
next to you, buddy.
This is a collective of people out on a sunset cocktail cruise. You don't just go, oh, I'm going shirtless when the majority of people are wearing shirts.
Hey, guess what?
That's the other
Watch
thing.
me.
You're not going with.
Jeez.
It's 6 of you out of 16, so it's not like you're also gonna have 10 strangers
I mean,
on
seriously,
that boat.
they're gonna be like, dude,
Watch
why
me.
don't you put a freaking shirt on?
It's amazing.
It's a sunset cruise. It's not a suntan cruise. And by the way,
the sun's still setting. That means it's still up, Johnny.
as soon as we mention it, I have heard from 3 or 4 people who have done it, and they loved it.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely loved it. They said it's a blast.
Maybe if we send Sir Anthony on one of the Tiki boat tours, it'll
Yeah, I
fix
want
him.
him on a
Thank you for transitioning, Mr. Producer.
There we go.
I got you.
So, all right, Sir Anthony's last 2 outings been better. 2 shutout innings, both against the Giants, back-to-back days. So hopefully that is a good sign for things to come. But the last time he did that, he followed up with 4 earned runs against the Reds. So we'll see if he's turning a corner. I'm just worried, is this an Alek Manoah situation? So Alek Manoah, in case people don't know who he is.
I know Sacred Heart Manoah.
Alek Manoah was freaking dominant with the Blue Jays, who are in town right now. He, in 2022, 31 starts, goes 16-7, 2.24 ERA. Did he win Cy Young that year? Or
He
was
might
like-
have, or he was
I
a
think
finalist.
he was a
He was a
runner-up.
finalist. All right, tremendous year. Then the next year, he forgot how to pitch. 19 starts, 3-9, 5.87 ERA. Got sent down to low A ball because I think it was closest. It was easier or whatever. Not like it wasn't a direct shot at him. It was just
Okay.
like, hey, go to low A ball. And he was getting rocked in low A ball.
How?
I don't know. It's almost like he's Wade Boggs. Like it's almost like he forgot. This year, he's made 1 start, and it was against the Nationals, and he gives up 6 earned runs. And
Okay, that's a
worried,
huge drop off.
Is Sir Anthony Dominguez going down this path? Talk me off the ledge, Connor.
I can confidently say no.
Okay.
Right? Because we've seen good stuff from Sir Anthony Dominguez at points. He's had good outings.
Yes.
And the other thing with Dominguez that I worry a lot more when I see guys lose velocity, when I see guys lose stuff.
Which he still has.
He still has it. His command has not been great. And I think that's because he's not trusting his mechanics, and that goes into the whole crisis of confidence thing. The toughest thing with the Sir Anthony
Well, isn't
deal,
that what Manoah is dealing with?
I don't know what Manoah's dealing with. It could be something deeper than that because he's got more issues. Like, he can't get out of innings right now. Sir Anthony, if he's not in a high-pressure spot, has been okay. But the tough thing is I don't know how you fix it because I would recommend the Jose Alvarado thing. Send him down, let him get work, retool everything, comes back up. He was great. It worked for him. But you don't have that option unless you do what Ricky's talking about, which is smart. 10-day injured list, rehab start, get him a chance to go down, do something like that.
Or, as Ricky did point out, they could ask him to go.
They could.
And if he is truly wanting to work on his craft.
Which maybe he does. Like,
maybe he would. No, I mean, but he should.
But
but John, as a human, he probably goes, "No, man, trust me, I got this." And then,
okay, but it hasn't been.
Last 2 outings have been better.
Right.
He's not lost. He's not. He's not good right now, but
he's not good right now.
He's not
I
lost.
think he. I think he sort of seems lost. Like he's not a dumpster fire.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
But he does seem a little lost to me.
I think there's salvageable innings from Seranthony Dominguez, and I think you build on that. And I think really it's awesome it's happening this year because this team is so damn
exactly.
good.
You're right.
That he's going to get a lot of opportunities to throw. So let's see what he looks like in June. He's going to be with the team, and just don't give him high leverage innings and hope he builds confidence. That's the only thing you can do.
All right.
Well, it's not
I'll
the
take your
only
word
thing.
for it. I just don't want it to be a Manoah situation where this guy looks. Seranthony Dominguez was arguably your best bullpen arm 2 years ago. I know Jose Alvarado had the turnaround the season, but he was probably your most consistent bullpen arm, and all of a sudden it's just gone downhill.
A reliever can look bad, I think, too. When you see a starter that goes through this kind of struggle, I'm much more concerned than seeing a reliever.
I agree.
That goes through.
But it doesn't help that this year is worse than last year, and we had questions with Dominguez last year. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to reset the show to start the 9 o'clock hour. We've been talking about what makes the Eagles such a successful franchise. We then open that up with the Phillies as well. I'm going to ask a very specific question about the Sixers. Are they a successful franchise? We continue that conversation coming your way next for the 9 o'clock hour. It's Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic. Kincade and Salciunas. Happy Wednesday morning. Another hour for us to play, and then Bob Cooney, midday show, coming your way at 10 o'clock. So make sure you're listening to Bobby coming up at 10.
He's already fired up.
And then you and I and Connor and B. Gunn will be hightailing it out of here after our meeting first. And then we'll head to Citizens Bank Park and watch the Phillies take on the Blue Jays. So we're excited for that.
Very excited.
A couple of winners yesterday. We gave away 2 pairs of Phillies tickets for today's game. We'll be hanging out with them before the game. So an exciting time to be a Phillies fan as they just continue to keep on winning baseball games. Again, last night, beating the Blue Jays 10-1. But our topic today has been about the success of the Eagles, the success of the Phillies. What makes them such successful franchises? And this is over the course of since the turn of the century. Now, more so Eagles than the Phillies. The Phillies are kind of in the middle of it right now. But they did have that great run at one point. And I think you can point to, once again, Pat Gillick, right? GMs and owners that were willing to spend money.
Gillick coming here, very, very similar to Dave Dombrowski coming here.
Right.
A guy with a complete pedigree, complete resume of success that comes into another organization and then just spreads the glory.
Yeah, and not believing the way Matt Klentak did that, he could base things off of numbers.
Yes.
And not necessarily talent. And then destroying the career of Scott Kingery because they thought he could play 75 different positions when there's only 9 on the field, and he was really only good at 1. And that was second base, right? Like they screwed up big time during that regime. So our initial jumping off point was what makes the Eagles such a successful franchise. Coming up at 9:10, Connor, we have the 5 best minutes of Adam Schefter. And I asked Shefty about that, and I'm sure you'll hear his answer during the 5 minutes. He talks about how the Eagles, if you went over it since 2000, he would put them in the top 5.
I would.
Yeah, I don't see how you couldn't.
Well, I mean, when you just take Chiefs and Patriots off the board.
Right.
Then at that point, you can't argue anybody. I would argue that the Eagles are probably third.
They're probably third. Pittsburgh's in that conversation.
San Fran might have to be.
San Fran might have to be because they won, and then same thing, they stopped, and then they came back. Baltimore's in the conversation.
No, Baltimore's in because they have 2 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
That's 5 teams right there, boys.
That's it. They're right there.
Well, they're in the conversation
No,
for the top 5.
Pittsburgh's not ahead of them. Pittsburgh is not ahead of them. They're new.
Since 2000?
No, they're not. They won Super Bowl.
Same.
Okay. And then what do they have? They have a hell of a lot of 8-8s, 9-7s.
Yeah, but what did they do in the playoffs? I got to see how many AFC Championship games they got into.
They got smoked by Brady.
No, the Eagles have better.
That's true.
No, the Eagles are better. There's not even a question in my mind.
I'm just saying that the Steelers would be in the conversation.
They'd be in the conversation, but not ahead of them.
What makes the Eagles so successful? And let me know if we have any texts coming in on about that, Connor, at 610-632-0975. We gave you a bunch of reasonings. We did the organizational philosophy of building in the trenches, even though we kind of mock it sometimes because we go, here we go, another draft where they're going to draft an offensive lineman. I don't know how you can mock it if it keeps on working. Jeffrey Lurie being the great owner that he is a big reason why they've been so successful since 2000. Howie Roseman's heavy hand is a big reason why they've been so successful, especially since 2017, specifically when he takes over for Chip back in 2016. There's a million reasons why, and we're trying to figure out all of them. What makes the Eagles such a successful franchise? We then started that conversation about the Phillies, and we talked about Dave Dombrowski. Dave Dombrowski, not just he himself and his eye for talent, but how about getting rid of some old scouts and bringing in new scouts?
Getting rid of a ton of old scouts.
I didn't realize when he got rid of some of the old scouts, these were scouts that have been around. And I know the Phillies are such a family-run organization, and I respect that. I didn't realize some of these scouts were around, like, before Charlie.
And that is...
And how many times have we complained about the lack of production from first-round picks?
There it is. And
I mean, think about that. If that happened in the NFL, those scouts are fired 2 or 3 years in.
And honestly, scouts are... I don't want to say this right away. Scouts are not expensive.
I got you.
Scouts are not an expense for a $1 billion organization.
Right.
Scouts, changing out scouts is not expensive.
And Dave Dombrowski did that.
And family run is fine if you're a pizza parlor, but like this is a baseball organization. You got to get in guys that know the modern game and know what you're doing, and sometimes
and Dave Dombrowski did that. He got rid of some longtime scouts with the Phillies that have not really gotten you many. I'm not even saying deep cut talents. I'm saying first round picks. Still waiting for Cornelius Randolph.
Are you really?
I don't know where he's at.
Still
Is he
waiting
in the
it
Phillies organization anymore?
Could not tell you. Still a great name, though.
It's a fantastic name. So I want to now ask you this. Because we all in agreement that the Eagles are a great franchise and have been since 2000. The Phillies are currently a great franchise, this current run that they're in.
Okay. I hear a but coming.
Oh, not a but. I'm asking
Okay,
a question.
Okay. All right.
Do you consider the Sixers a great franchise?
No.
Oh, this is what we're going to do? We're going to fight today?
No. And it's not even a question. I can't believe you ask it. A great franchise? Hell no.
I can make the case that they are.
No, you can't.
It's just unfortunate that they haven't won.
Well, but wait a minute. It's really nice. I could make the case that this woman is a supermodel. But she'd have to really say, I could make the case that this guy should win a Nobel Prize. But he's a dope. But I can make the prize. Hell no. Hell no.
The Sixers are considered contenders every single year.
You said G. You said the G word.
What?
A great franchise.
Okay.
They're not a great franchise. Stop it. You don't get out of the second round for a quarter of a century, and you can't use the word great for anything other than the fact that they've provided some great entertaining moments. That's it. Flat out. That's
every
it.
single year they're considered a contender.
But then people who keep getting fooled.
I remember saying on these airwaves the day after Game 7. So Mother's Day was Sunday, right? When the Sixers lost to the Celtics.
Yes.
I remember on the airwaves the next day, that Monday morning, that Monday midday, saying, you know what sucks about all this? Because we're so down the dumps. They're going to be contenders again next year, too.
No, it sucked.
It's true, though. They lost in the first round. They're going to be contenders next year.
I had my surgery, my cancer surgery, the day after. And I'm not kidding you that Dr. Schoon Young, as they're setting me up in the room before they give me the stuff to knock me out.
Yeah.
And he said, boy, those Sixers yesterday. Really, the last thing I remember before going under. And I'm thinking to myself.
Thank God you came.
I'm thinking to myself, if I have an adverse reaction to this, my last thought was the Sixers kicked me in the Nuggets again. And I'm like, thanks a lot, Doc. Thanks, Doc.
Connor, are the Sixers a great franchise?
I would say they're a good franchise.
Okay.
I'd agree with you.
I can't put great on them. Now,
hell no.
I would also say that a lot of the barrier between good and great is kind of unlucky. Is that fair to say?
I have said, dude, the Sixers have been an unlucky franchise. Dude, they have a generational talent that can't freaking stay healthy. They had the next LeBron James that stopped caring about basketball and would rather walk around with his Flavor Flav briefcase. They drafted the first overall pick, who was a sniper from 3 in college, and then decided he can't shoot a free throw anymore in Markelle Fultz. Jahlil Okafor couldn't stay healthy. Nerlens Noel all of a sudden didn't know how to play basketball anymore. The Sixers have been such an unlucky franchise.
Don't forget, you had a first-round pick that you traded for the guy you should have had that almost died from a peanut butter sandwich.
I will say that was just a poor organizational decision. I understand
the peanut butter was unlucky.
Yeah, but dude, when Zaire Smith got before the allergen, I did not think Zaire Smith was going to be Kawhi Leonard, who Brett Brown told, I believe, Mikey Miss on this radio station that they seek a little bit of Kawhi in Zaire Smith, and that was freaking stupid of Brett Brown.
The thing you're saying, though, is if you want me to believe unlucky over a quarter of a century, stop.
No,
Stop.
I'm saying this current regime.
Stop.
Current regime.
Currently,
10 years.
They've been unlucky. How about this? They've been unlucky with the way you could say, oh, it's unlucky that Joel Embiid breaks his face against Toronto. No. Or you could say, it's stupid that the head coach had him in a game that was an elimination game for Toronto that was already won. And he was in the game.
Okay, that's Doc's fault.
So
is that the organization's fault?
No. Well,
it's Doc's fault.
He's your guy. He's the guy you hired.
Morey's not walking down there saying, hey, pull him.
Yeah, but he's the guy you hired. Okay. And so that was a dumb thing.
That's fair.
You could say talent evaluation. Did people know? I knew before the draft, and I could play people back. Shaq and I having conversations about Ben Simmons and him saying, I don't know. Does he like basketball?
You were
Okay.
And does he like
Okay,
basketball?
but-
And so if they didn't do. By the way, and I don't-
Rookie
wait a
of the
minute,
year,
wait a minute,
John,
wait.
three-time All-Star.
I will tell you that I don't believe the Sixers did their due diligence with people who had quite a bit of contact with Ben Simmons, as I know Shaq didn't talk to them, and he could have told you a story. He told a podcast audience to tens of thousands, well, millions of people, and he told them about the guy before he was drafted.
We're going to continue this conversation because you and I are not going to see eye to eye. The Sixers are probably one of the most unlucky franchises
No, he said good.
that I know.
I say good franchise.
But no, you say that they're not even unlucky.
No, I'm
I
like,
say
stop
that
using
they are
unlucky.
We'll talk about it, but we do this every single Wednesday. We speak to Adam Schefter at 8 o'clock, and then at 9:10 we play the best 5 minutes from Shefty earlier today on Kincade Salciunas. The great Adam Schefter. Shefty, good morning.
Good morning, guys. And John, congratulations on your induction into the Temple Hall of Fame.
Wow, you've made national media.
Thank you, buddy. That is greatly appreciated.
Shefty, today we're getting into a conversation about the Eagles since the turn of the century, since 2000, and how a lot of people could make the case that they have been one of the more successful franchises in the NFL. Obviously, it's only been one Super Bowl, not a dynasty like Kansas City has had. Obviously, the dynasty that we saw with New England, with Brady and Belichick. But the Eagles have been one of the more consistent, successful franchises since 2000. And we're trying to figure out why. What is it that the Eagles do, in your mind, that makes them such a successful franchise?
Well, first of all, you talk about the success, and I'm not just saying this. They were truly one win away from you talking about them as a dynasty and an even different tier. Had they beat the Chiefs in that Super Bowl, which they very easily could have done, I don't need to remind anybody in Philadelphia. Everybody remembers what happened that day very, very well. But had they won that game, you'd be looking at this franchise in an even more exalted light than you already do. But there are not many teams, if you go back and count up the division titles and the playoff wins and all that, they're going to be, I guarantee they're going to be in the top 5 of this century. They're just going to be. New England will be there. Kansas City will be there on the strength of what it's done recently, but Philadelphia is going to be there. Victory, everything, by every metric. And, you know, I think when it comes to that, it starts at the top with ownership. It just does. You know, there are certain very strong owners who are willing to do what it takes to spend, and I certainly include Jeffrey Lurie in that group. And then there have been some, you know, strong coaching staffs, some strong front offices making the right decisions. And, you know, I just think now, today, you know, Howie Roseman is such a strong presence in that organization and lives, eats, and breathes it, like is consumed by it. And it matters so much to him what they're doing. So that, I think, permeates so much of what they do and why they seem to consistently win in the offseason.
Now, we talk about the good, and then we'll sort of ease our way into the not so good. Kenneth Gainwell, one of the running backs on the Eagles roster, was on a podcast earlier this week, and he was probably the first player to really open up about what happened last season for the Eagles. He talked about the maybe lack of connection that other teams may have between player to player, player to coach, player to front office. It's really the first player that's really opened up. I'm still trying to figure out what the heck happened. I don't think his answer tells us everything that happened. But, Adam, was there – I know we've asked you this a few times, but I still can't sit here and say linebacker play is the reason why they went from 10-1 to 11-6. Do you think more players will start to open up soon about the issues the Eagles had last year?
No. I mean, first of all, I don't know specifically you're saying Kenneth Gainwell opened up about it, but I still didn't hear you say, Andrew, a reason that he listed as to what it was, a connection between the players. Is that what he's saying?
He said there was the connection that other teams like Kansas City doesn't have.
Top to bottom.
Top to bottom. And then he started talking about how guys were playing with their heads down after a couple of losses, and that carried into the playoffs. And I just wonder, was there some sort of, I don't know, lack of morale in the locker room that for some reason nobody could try to get an answer and fix?
Yeah, again, if it were my podcast, I would have had a lot of follow-up questions. What do you mean? Expand upon that connection. I don't know what he means.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah, I'd like to follow up and hear more about it. And again, when a team's not winning, it's hard to. They're never going to feel connected overly. Like that's how it is. Like I always love that. The leadership question. Oh, this team had good leadership, but when they're 15-2. Yeah, everything when you're winning is going. The coaches make all the right calls. The players make everything's great. Everything smells great. When it doesn't go that way, people are angry. People are pissed off. Nobody's connected. It's not working. It's easy to say. It doesn't mean much to me. It just doesn't. Like, they had a terrible finish. Everybody was pissed off about it. Nobody's happy. Nobody feels connected. Nothing's working. But why? Why? We still haven't answered that. And, you're going to wonder for a long time about that. I don't know that it'll ever be answered. Maybe it will. Maybe it'll come out at some point. But there's no – that doesn't tell me anything. No disrespect, but when you're not winning, there's a lot of things that are wrong. And it's easy to just say that. So, I don't know. It was a year that went south real quick. And, again, I just come back to that one game against the 49ers where they got hammered, and it just seems like the team fell apart from that point on. It seems like they were exposed that day. It seemed like they never recovered from that day. It seems like they were beaten down that day, and it just got away from them. And once the snowball started rolling down the mountain, it was like a runaway snowball.
All right, that's our best 5 minutes from Shefty earlier today. And that last clip that you heard, that snowballing and how they couldn't get out of their own way, that's why I'll once again say to what Brian Westbrook told Bob Cooney. The first day, what was our first day of the show?
That was the first day, though.
Yeah, what was our March? What day was it?
20-something?
March 20-something. I should probably remember that.
I'll tell you.
That big moment in my career.
March 25th.
March 20th.
No.
21st.
March 18th.
March 18th. I should probably know that.
3/18.
Bob Cooney's first day hosting Middays, Brian Westbrook told him that they better get off to a hot start or people will start questioning Nick Sirianni. And Adam Schefter just said all that kind of stuff about how it spiraled out of control. Well, they better get off to a hot start. They better get off to a hot start.
Better be doing it.
All right, so you don't think the Sixers are unlucky?
No, I do think the Sixers have had some level of being unlucky. But I would also say to you is that there are also things that you can point to with a lot of the unlucky as being their own doing. I say this. You said great. Let's not move off this.
They're a great franchise.
You said they're a great franchise. I laugh because there isn't anyone in the NBA. You couldn't find one NBA analyst, coach, otherwise, that would agree with you that they're a great NBA franchise.
I think they're a great NBA franchise.
Ridiculous.
Are they an elite NBA franchise? Of course not, because they haven't won a championship.
No, great is.
But I'd say they're a great franchise.
Great's the word.
Let's do this because we're going to get stuck on this.
Okay.
Who is in their tier, Andrew? Who are other franchises that are on the Sixers level?
In their so obviously the Nuggets are number one, even though they might get bounced quickly in this series against the Timberwolves.
And they're
I wouldn't say they're
come lately.
one. I'd say Golden State's probably one, and Boston's probably two.
Golden State's not right now.
Well, we're talking about
a playing
the franchise has been. They've been the Patriots. The Patriots aren't great right now. The Patriots have been a great franchise. So have the Warriors. They're in that same thing. They've been a great franchise.
Yeah, and the Warriors also got lucky getting a generational three-point shooter in Steph Curry and Klay Thompson.
Why is it luck?
Because Minnesota passed on him when they shouldn't have.
Twice. Ricky Rubio and Johnny Flynn.
So Milwaukee's lucky because they got Giannis at 16.
No,
they're lucky that they got everybody. Or could you say the teams that had the picks before them were dopes and didn't do enough research on people they were drafting to understand who they got? Markelle Fultz, you're telling me nobody did enough research to go, man, this guy shot. It doesn't.
Dude, he wasn't shot until he started playing in the NBA.
No, his shot. People talked about it from the beginning when he got to the NBA.
That one I can't give you, John.
No.
Dude, he had a pure.
Bob will tell the story of being at his first workout.
Yeah, the workout was an ugly workout.
And it was an ugly workout, and he wasn't shooting the basketball. The very first workout.
And they already made the decision that they were going to draft him. That's why they traded up to get him.
Craziness.
I'm going to ask Connor, are they more unlucky? Because I say
why
unlucky.
Why are you moving the needle on this? You said they are a great franchise.
Because I think they're a great franchise. Because they're contenders every single year.
Let's not move it to another
All right,
discussion.
No, we'll talk about that.
Nobody's great.
You also don't agree that they're unlucky.
No, I'm saying to a degree. You can't use it for a quarter of a century.
I'm saying this. All right, we'll continue it. I promise it. We'll continue this conversation because this current regime, or I'll say ever since Joel Embiid started playing basketball, they have been more unlucky than I would say probably every team in the NBA. It's Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic. 97.5 The Fanatic. It's been a fun day talking about success because that's good. Even though
it's been a good day for success.
Even though it was one Super Bowl, but look. I keep on going back to it. We are in a very good time in Philadelphia sports, even though it's led to a lot of heartbreak and a lot of anger and a lot of questioning of decisions. I get it. So let's revisit what we were getting into this past segment. I believe the Sixers are still a great franchise. And I go back to the fact that they are considered contenders every single year. And I think it depends on how you categorize great.
Do they draft well?
Do they? Well, they did with Joel Embiid. And Tyrese Maxey.
Okay. But they got lucky with Joel Embiid, right?
Yeah, and they got lucky with Tyrese Maxey, too.
Right.
But you could make
there are only 2 draft picks that worked. They got lucky with.
Dude,
the same thing you just said about why were the Warriors good? Well, they got lucky. So the only reason the Sixers have been good.
I think there's a lot of luck, especially in the NBA draft. Dude, look, Ben Simmons, I don't think that was the Sixers' fault for poor evaluation process. I remember, I don't remember Shaq saying it, but I remember you telling the story.
Yes. And he said it for everybody to hear.
And there were multiple draft people that said he might not really want it that much, right? But you can't ignore the fact that he was incredible his first 3 years, and then we all were waiting for that.
I wanted him.
Right.
So I'm not doing revisionist history.
Right.
I wanted him, and he was trying to tell me.
But we all waited for that. You know, it's like year 4, year 5 in an NBA career where guys take that next step. We all thought that maybe he could be Giannis. All right, he doesn't have to shoot, but if he was just aggressive like Giannis, he probably wouldn't be as great as Giannis, but he doesn't have to be because he's got Joel Embiid and he's got all the assets that the Sixers are providing for him. He just stopped wanting to play basketball.
Also, we're just looking at players. There's also the front office because you got a guy replaced by the NBA. I don't care how you feel about Sam Hinkie. NBA comes in and replaces him with a guy that creates burner Twitter accounts trash-talking his own players. That's not exactly good luck.
Can I tell you a take? I said
Go on.
Be careful. Can I tell you a take? I was totally cool with it. I never knew when the end was with Sam Hinkie. I never knew when the end was.
No. I'm not talking about replacing, but the fact that the NBA placed guy is the dude with the burner accounts.
Can I tell you something else? I like the moves he made.
Sure.
Bellinelli and Ilyasova made sense.
But guess what?
Because we didn't know at the time, it looked like it was going to be more Ben Simmons' team than Joel Embiid.
Right.
But the burner accounts
not happened. Because the dope ended up going out right before a very pivotal offseason that ended up with star hunting and ended up with that chain of reaction making bad moves.
You talked about what you thought the night it was done. I was at an event when I found out, and I ordered champagne. A glass of champagne. I said, I want a glass of champagne that this stupid nightmare may be over. Because I was so tired of hearing about it. And so tired of hearing people tell me that they were the smartest people in the room for doing this.
Yeah.
You know who is? Oklahoma City did a nice job with it.
No. See, this is...
They did.
This
is nice
where
job
you drive me crazy.
I like that.
Oklahoma City hit on players. They did the exact...
So they're a great franchise, right?
They did the exact same thing the Sixers did, John. The exact same thing.
Except?
They lucked out.
What? Okay, so if another team drafts well, they luck out.
But they didn't draft Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. They traded for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
That's one player on that roster.
Okay, it's their best player.
They drafted at least 6 of their top 8, didn't they?
But they did the exact same thing. And credit to them, they hit on players.
Yeah, well, it's not luck. Don't you can't be given everybody else's luck. And the Sixers are unlucky. BS.
Ben Simmons stopped caring about basketball. Markelle Fultz, they invented an injury called thoracic outlet syndrome just to make it seem like, there's a reason why this guy isn't playing. The Sixers are an unlucky franchise.
Kelly Oubre got hit by a car.
He did. John. Just go with the
Did he?
John, just go. Just go with the story.
You believe the story? I may not.
I will believe the story. I will take
I believe that no cameras of it or anything. I want Kelly Oubre back, though, so I'm willing to just suspend belief and say no camera picked it up.
I shouldn't have brought that up. Anyway.
Al Horford forgot how to play basketball with the Sixers. They're an Unlucky franchise.
Or he's always been a good, at least a good player everywhere else.
I do think the system was not good.
Yeah, I mean, there's sometimes it's bad coaching.
That was Brett Brown's fault.
Sometimes it's bad coaching. Sometimes it's bad fit. But you're not unlucky for a quarter of a century. At some point, you look and go, you know what?
I'm not saying quarter of the century.
Maybe look, they are. You said a great franchise. There is nobody in the NBA. Nobody employed an NBA analyst, a coach, and a general that would say, yeah, the Sixers are a great franchise. A good franchise? Yes. Great? Nobody would use that word except Andrew Salciunas.
That's me.
You're the only one.
Mr. Sixers fanboy here on Kincade Salciunas.
Oh, my gosh.
They are unlucky, though.
Can you dance with those people at halftime? Because they really move.
I used to dance in the Revolutionaries, man.
See, yeah, you did cosplay at the Sixers.
Come on. Let's go to our man Mitch in Phoenix. Hello, Mitch.
Yes, sir. How you guys doing this morning?
What's up, man? How are you?
Mitch, what's up, buddy?
Well, I'm reading across the screen on what do we call it? ESPN.
That's the worldwide leader.
The worldwide leader. You got that right. Who do we want more, Jimmy Butler or Paul George? And they're having a very interesting conversation as far as who would be a better fit. What do you think?
Who would be a better fit? Basketball-wise, it is Paul George. Basketball-wise. But maybe you need culture, and that might be a Jimmy Butler. And thanks for the call, Mitch. We appreciate it.
Hope he's enjoing first take.
Yeah, he's listening. You know, I appreciate
Greeny.
I appreciate you calling in, but at least, you know.
Seriously. My gosh. Hey, I'm watching First Take here, and I wanted to call you guys.
I used to love when people would call in. Man, I just heard Skip Bayless say this. I'm like, all right, thanks.
Why are you watching Skip?
How about you listen to the show?
I'm not. That's what I'm saying.
Let's go to Stucco in Manayunk. Hello, Stucco.
Stucco. Oh my God.
We're on fire
this has been
now.
We
are on fire, baby.
Now, you know what, though? I don't trust stucco in the Northeast. Now, stucco in the South is fine. When you get the stucco up here in the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast,
molding.
A lot of
molding issues, man.
A lot of mold issues.
Molding issues. All right, let's try.
Let's try it again.
One more.
Oh, my gosh.
We didn't take many calls today,
well,
so
Quinn,
I want to give the people a chance to talk.
Well, Quinn's going to be on with us, and he's going to be like, well, I'm watching Good Morning America.
Yeah, let's go to Quinn and Ardmore. Hello, Quinn.
Hey, fellas. How are you?
Good,
this is
Quinn.
a good start already.
What's
Your
up,
phone
buddy?
sounds great. You're ready. I already love you, Quinn.
Listen. I think this discussion is really interesting about the success with the franchises. I disagree with a lot of what's been said.
What parts do you disagree with?
Mostly with you, John, about the Sixers.
Okay. Are they a great franchise?
I don't know if I would use the word great. I think we
wouldn't
get caught up in those words too many times. But they've definitely been unlucky. They've definitely been in a position to win. But kind of all the teams, I don't really look at drafting as an indication of what a good franchise is, because the draft is kind of a crapshoot for every sport.
Yeah.
I think it's a little unfair.
Even when you draft at the top of the draft, I would argue with you that doesn't tend to be the
John,
case.
how many NFL teams are drafted at the top?
NBA. We're talking NBA.
Yeah, no, even NBA. Dude, Greg Oden. Nobody thought that his legs would blow up.
Yes. That is.
I think the Sixers have made a lot of bad decisions over the years, specifically in the Elton Brand and Colangelo eras. I was a big Hinkie fan, so I kind of, I pushed back on some of those criticisms a little bit. But as far as the Eagles go, I think their success comes from how willing Howie and Jeffrey are to own their mistakes and change them really quickly.
I agree.
They've only had 2 times they've missed the playoffs in consecutive seasons since 2000. It was 2011 and 12, and 2015 and 16. The last 2 years of Andy, the last 2 years of Chip.
Yeah.
The only time since 2000 they missed the playoffs.
And that's why, Quinn, and we appreciate the call, man. That's why we were so bothered by Morey yesterday. What our reactions to Morey yesterday, obviously he talked on Monday, when he basically doubled down with the building a team through the season. And then you always hear about, well, they didn't have much time to play with one another. That's not like...
And then he says he wants to build this year's team where he's continuing to build it throughout the season, and then next year he'll tell us they didn't have enough time to play together.
And that's something I don't like, especially when you have all this cap space and movable draft picks and a million roster spots that are open. I would rather you, Daryl Morey, try to build a team for game one. And I get it. If you have to make a trade for a shooter at some point during the trade deadline, I'm fine with that. But it can't be, all right, well, we're going to trade for James Harden in the middle of the season. We're going to trade for another big-name player that's going to change how we play. Right? Like, I can't be another, let's draft somebody or trade for somebody that's going to change how we play in the middle of the season. It's got to be just somebody who fits at this point. But try to come up with that roster before game one, please. I'm begging you.
Please, could you?
I love it. I was a big Sam Hinkie fan. I know there were a lot of Sam Hinkie fans.
Of what were people big fans of? Can you give me the things that, if you're saying the big Sam Hinkie fans must be Buddy Ryan fans, because they have nothing to show for it, but they're telling me they're big fans. Buddy Ryan fans, man, Buddy Ryan was the greatest. Yeah, but nothing to show for it.
Until Joel Embiid is done, you'll have nothing to show. Like if he never wins,
he got lucky. He would.
They wanted winless for Wiggins.
Right, he wouldn't have had him. He wanted Wiggins. And by the way, a lot of people did.
Here's the Hinkie thing, right? It's not about the picks. It's not about the selections. I mean, like the players they acquired. I don't think there's a lot of leg to stand on when you talk about how he drafted players and how he acquired, who he picked. But taking the team from where they were and going into that aggressive rebuild is something that other GMs wouldn't have done, and we could easily be sitting.
But I could say this. I could have done it.
You could have.
You could have hired me to.
You absolutely could have.
Let me get Ish Smith and Tony Roten out there.
You're right.
You know what I mean? Like, I could have done.
Yes, you could have done
I
that.
support Sam Hinkie because of what he did. But I was ready for it to end. I was. So
I got you.
I didn't hate the league stepping in and putting in Brian Colangelo, who I also thought made at least one or two good moves at the beginning, and then the burner accounts happened, and, you know.
I totally understand it, but I can't treat it like he burned the franchise down. Like, he had a plan that was justifiable
that was
at the
his
time.
plan.
Well, yes, but I mean, he didn't, like, leave it burnt.
Who couldn't have done that?
It's not about who couldn't.
No, but I mean, like what? We could have pulled somebody out of Olney,
right,
and said to them, "Here, this is what Sam Hinkie thinks is going to do it.
Right,
you get to do it." And I could have found guys in Olney that could have done it.
Absolutely.
And Broomall.
A lot of people
maybe
could
one or
have,
two in Broomall,
but very few NBA GMs have. It's about being willing to go through it. And I think
the willingness is ownership. It's not the GM.
Well, it's both.
No. It's ownership, because Josh Harris look, again.
And who has to convince them?
Well,
the guy with the plan.
All right, the GM, you're right. The GM has to convince them, but ownership has to completely sign off on it, because they had like maybe 20 people in attendance.
Right.
They were losing money left and right, man.
I'm not trying to defend his honor, but I'm also not going to treat him like he did every single thing wrong.
No, I don't think he did every single thing wrong.
I know. But
I don't think anybody said he did every single thing wrong. I'm just saying is that I could find 1,000 Sixers fans who could have said, okay, this is what we're trying to do. You go do it. And they could have done the exact same thing. I don't know what we're freaking celebrating. Like, why is he talking about? He's the Buddy Ryan of basketball. In this town, people talk about him, and because they're going to die on that hill.
Good line, Johnny.
He is.
I'll give it to you. I will give it to you. It's a good line. He's
Nothing
the Buddy
to show
Ryan
for
of
it.
basketball.
Nothing to show for it, but, man, we're big fans.
All right, coming up next, the Kincade Salciunas Key 3, the 3 best minutes from today's show, and then also our crossover with the great Bob Cooney. Coming your way next right here, Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Philadelphia 76ers president of basketball.
Kincade and Salciunas on this Wednesday morning. Want to let you guys know before we do the key three, John, myself, Connor, and Brendan Gunn will be heading to the Phillies game today. We have two sets of winners from yesterday that we'll be hanging out with, but you guys can join us too. If you're going to the Phillies game today, we gave away tickets to those two winners yesterday and a guest. But if you're going to the Phillies game, we're going to be hanging out Pass and Stowe before first pitch.
Looking forward to that.
We said 12 o'clock. If I get there earlier, I guess I might have to have a beer earlier.
I think we might get there earlier too.
So if you are heading to the game and you got some time before first pitch, we'll be heading over to Pass and Stowe to have a pop or two or three before the game. So hope to see you guys there. All right, it's time now for the key three.
Now, the Kincade and Salciunas Key 3. Today's best.
So today we want to try to figure out what makes the Eagles such a successful organization, because we talk about them being one of the more successful franchises in the NFL over the last 24 years. You can make the case maybe in sports, but man, every single year I get to put on the Eagles green and say, wow, there's a legitimate shot that they could do something this year. So they're one of the more successful franchises in the NFL, and I want to try to find out today, what is it that they do? And obviously it's not just one answer, there's multiple things. What are some of the things that the Eagles do that sets them apart from a lot of the other teams in the NFL?
Eagles do this run of excellence in a salary cap sport.
Yeah.
That is the hardest sport to sustain. Football is built to tear you down and to try to get everybody to be like 9-7, 7-9, right in that neighborhood. What the Eagles have managed to do is unbelievable in a salary cap sport because everybody's on an even playing field.
Yeah.
It's not a soft cap like in the NBA.
No, it's a salary cap.
It is a salary cap that you have to manage. So you've got to be great at numbers. You have to be really, really good at talent evaluation. You have to get a little luck.
Yeah, of
which
course.
Nick Foles.
Look, that whole Super Bowl run was luck. Like, let's be honest.
And to me, when I compare it to where we're at in this city, it amazes me that the Eagles are the team that is able to sustain.
Now, the hottest team in sports right now is your freaking Philadelphia Phillies, man. Another win last night, 10-1. As Connor said before the show, he could be pitching and they would win last night. They probably went 10-9.
Yeah, but that's all right.
But the Phillies would still win. Bryce Harper with a grand slam yesterday. The Phillies have won every game that he has hit a home run in so far this season. It's unbelievable. And they just go out there and they beat the crap out of a fun Blue Jays team. They beat the crap out of them yesterday. The great Adam Schefter. Shefty!
They're never going to feel connected overly. Like, that's how it is. Like, I always love that. The leadership question. This team had good leadership, when they're 15-2. Yeah, everything when you're winning is going. If the coaches make all the right calls, players everything's great. Everything smells great. When it doesn't go that way, people are angry, people are pissed off, nobody's connected, not working. It's easy to say. It doesn't mean much to me. It just doesn't. Like, terrible finish. Everybody was pissed off about it. Nobody's happy. Nobody feels connected. Nothing's working. But why? Why? We still haven't answered that, but that doesn't tell me anything. No disrespect, but when you're not winning, there's a lot of things that are wrong, and it's easy to just say that.
Do we as a fan base push the Eagles to greatness?
I think we help.
Like, do we push them by putting that kind of pressure on it? And is that maybe what pushed a John Middleton into making that,
I believe so.
Into making that commitment?
So. Yeah, I think so, and I think part of it is because of us. And look, obviously, Howie Roseman does a tremendous job.
Absolutely.
Jeffrey Lurie is a tremendous owner, but I do think the fan base does deserve a little bit of credit because it is different here. Ricky Batalico. Ricky, good morning.
If you look at how they're built, they're kind of built for this. Like, if somebody goes down, they have, 4 or 5 superstars on the team. Somebody should be able to turn it up a notch. Harper said, you know what, I guess it's my turn. I'm going to start hitting home runs left and right. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. Let's see, 6, 8, 12, but 10 RBIs in 3 games?
Yep.
I mean, wow.
That's how you know this team is really, really good. Because the last 2 years, what has been the national reaction to the Phillies? This team is fun.
Yeah.
Oh, we can root for this team. They're a really cool playoff team. When the rest of Major League Baseball starts hating you, that's when you know you've got a damn good baseball team.
The other day, we celebrated the 30-year anniversary of Jeffrey Lurie buying the Eagles. Right?
Have we ever done that before?
What?
Celebrating an owner buying a team?
No.
But it's been that transformational.
Yeah.
God bless Jeffrey Lurie. And I mean that. God bless Jeffrey Lurie for buying this team and to being as committed to this city and this team as he's been.
That's the key three, the 3 best minutes from today's show. And as I always say, sometimes the best minutes are the off-air conversations, too.
Yes.
Bobby Cooney joining us for the crossover. Good morning, Bob.
Good morning, boys. How are we today?
I'm good. How are you?
Bob.
Doing all right.
What do you got coming on today?
I don't know.
What's cooking? You don't know?
Just stuff, yeah.
Just
I guess
stuff.
Sports talk and things like that. Amy Fadul's going to join us from 10 to 12.
Yeah, because
she's got Phillies duties after that.
We'll be at the game today. I will take a picture of a beer for you.
No, that's okay. Please do not.
Don't do that. What if we tweet
No,
them? What if
I mean-
everybody tweets their beer from the park today to Bob?
No, see, that's something you don't tweet or text or picture something to somebody that they want to be doing to be like, oh, wish you were here.
I think you
well,
should do
guess
that.
what? So do I. So don't
How
let me
about
know
this?
what you're
if
doing.
Bob gets, I honestly, if Bob could get 100 of these today, just
Yeah.
to make him feel, because it would just show. Bob,
No, it'll make me feel bad.
Can I ask you something?
Yes.
Because I need to actually know. All right, you can be honest. It's just us talking here. You are now working with Bill some days, Amy some days.
Yeah.
And they're very good with the new media. And they always take the selfie pre-show.
Mm-hmm.
Are you in favor of the pre-show selfie?
With Amy and Bray, yes.
Not with Bill?
I don't do three boys in a picture. No, I'm good.
It's every day. I love it.
This is,
If
by the way, this has been recognized by people going, wait a minute, what? Bob always smiles with Amy.
Yeah.
In the picture. And then I hear you and Bill, and you guys have great rapport. And I'm like, why will he not smile in the Bill selfie?
Yeah. Oh,
It's
I don't.
just-
I didn't notice that. Honest
No,
to
you
God.
don't smile in the
Some,
Bill selfie.
some you do, some you don't.
As you guys know, I'm not big into taking pictures of myself. For Fadul, I'll do it, but like if three guys are asking me to take a picture together,
Because I know
I'm all right.
you're not the biggest picture taker.
No, I'm good. I
And
know
it's-
what I. Here's
it's
a great
every day
line.
now, though.
I know what I look like. I don't need to be verified in a picture of what
I give them
look
credit
like.
because they're good with the new media. It's something that
I'm all right.
It's every day.
All right.
You
That
are
was a
now
nice
in
picture of the three of you last night.
It was a
Yeah.
nice picture. We had a lot of fun yesterday.
Connor created the hashtag Send Bob a Beer today.
All right,
Hashtag
hey, I'm all
Send
up
Bob
for
a
it.
Beer. And so
One
send your
Ballot
pictures
Plaza,
today.
4th floor. Come on up, man.
I will
don't
get
care.
everybody at Pass and Stow today.
Yeah, let's do it.
Just to make
Bobby
you
will be listening,
Thanks,
man.
Bob. Hey, support life-saving cancer research. Join us and our generous partner, H&H Heating and Air Conditioning, and make a donation today to the American Association for Cancer Research. You can do it at 975thefanatic.com/AACR, because I'm living proof 3 times over. Cancer research saves lives.
All right, so if you're heading to the Phillies game, come check us out. We'll be hanging out at Pass and Stow before the first pitch. Then we'll head over to our seats and watch the game. Everybody have a great rest of your day. Bob Cooney, midday.